out of Akron, Ohio, representing Team Popping the Boys, the headline god, Jeremy Lambert, and his co-host, speaking out of Atlanta, Georgia, representing more than one royal family, the king of indie viewing, Stephen Jensen. And this is the Spotlight on Fightful.
Welcome, everyone, to the Spotlight. It is Thursday, January 18th. I'm Jeremy Lambert. That's Stephen Jensen. Shout out, as always, to Big Dick MLJ for the intro. Jensen, how you doing, buddy?
I'm doing good, man. Doing good. Just getting this morning started off. Back in my little home office, as you'll see in the interview with Kanik, as well. Doing some rearranging. Looks pretty similar behind me for the most part still, guys. But I will continue to work on the background, but everything around me is a little bit different. I got a whole bunch of, you can kind of see some like the loose figures and stuff out there, but try to kind of keep it like this for now. I'm still rearranging in here, but everything's good. Everything's good. How you doing, Jeremy?
I'm a little under the weather. I watched Dynamite half asleep last night. I caught up on what I needed to catch up on for the show this morning. I got to go back and rewatch stuff though. I was not feeling well at the end of yesterday. I'm not feeling great this morning. I'm going to power through this show and then go to sleep.
Hey, I hear you. I'm going to power through. Well, I shouldn't say power through the show. I'm looking forward to doing the show, but then going to the shoot job again, which I will. I have a little progress since last time. They haven't given me the official thing still, but it's some. I've had some good progress since. I've had, to make a long story short, because I know people don't want to hear this every time we start the show. I had to send more of my information to HR like last week, and they were like, the only reason you would have to do this is like for the there's no other reason I would have had to send additional information over. You know what I mean? So it's one of those things where like it's a lot of moving pieces. They clarified some stuff. It sounds like they're trying to fill my position right now, and there's moving pieces. Like, so someone's going to need to get my job. There's an opening for me in the other thing. It's just a timing thing, but luckily it sounds like things are all still good for the promotion. Hopefully, I'll definitely keep you guys filled in. But I appreciate all the support. And there's been people DMing me and stuff too, like just like asking how it's going and stuff. So I appreciate y'all. I'll give you a heads up once I have like an official offer again. But like I said, there's literally no reason for them to have had me do the steps that I have recently done unless I was supposed to be getting that job, or otherwise they're just completely messing with me. And then there's a problem that we're going to have to figure out. But like that, I don't know why.
A giant rib on you. Going through all of these hoops. You're actually getting fired. You're doing all of this because they're going to replace you.
They're setting up my exit interview. Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. But yeah, it's and even with that, like everything, it's all good. The weather's freaking cold. I've been dripping my faucets for like 3 or 4 days straight, like so my pipes don't burst. So I'm afraid of that happening. So
that's not good. Well, hopefully it's cold here. I don't know what it is today. It's been freezing here. The kids didn't have school yesterday because it was just so cold out. It wasn't snowy or anything, just so cold that they're like, yeah, we can't send you out here in good conscience. So weather's awful all around. We got a super chat from Tommy Maynard. Shout out to the best show on FIFO. We appreciate you, Tommy. You guys can leave a super chat if you would like. Get your question, comment, statement read on the air. You can leave us a thumbs up on the video if you would like to do that as well. Let's see if we can get the fireworks going. I don't know if we're going to get them. Leave us a thumbs up on the video. Subscribe to the channel. There we go. Subscribe to the channel as well if you'd like to do that. And head over to Fightful Overbooked and subscribe over there. Maggie's in the chat. Maggie's on Fightful Overbooked every Friday at 3 p.m. Eastern with Coexisting. So if you like Maggie, then go to Fightful Overbooked and subscribe. Do that. All right. Subscribe to the channel. Do all that fun stuff.
Support Maggie. Maggie rules. Maggie's one of the people who's been checking up on me about the job. So thank you, Maggie.
Maggie is a tremendous, fantastic person. We always appreciate her hanging out with us on her Thursday mornings when we do. I guess it's like afternoon for her, but Thursday mornings when we do this here show. All right, let's get into it. Let's start with Dynamite. Actually, we'll start with there.
I'm old and I'm fucking tired, and I work with fucking children. I'm tired of wrestling these kids that think they know everything.
It's still so good. It's still so good. And it's relevant because even though CM Punk. It's a CM Punk heavy episode, even though we're not actually talking about CM Punk, his power, his influence. Even though CM Punk is no longer in AEW, he was kind of referenced last night during the Young Bucks interview as they were talking about, they are Nicholas and Matthew, now Jackson, I guess not Massey or Buck as they were in TNA.
Yeah.
Nicholas and Matthew, they said that it's time to start being EVPs again. And we lost sight of our goal. Our goal was to change the world when we started this. And we lost sight of that. And why? Because we started leaning on the stars of yesterday, the self-serving, cancerous stars of yesterday. And they said, we're not talking about Sting. But Sting is very, he's an older guy. He's a guy of the past that we don't need to rely on anymore. And he needs to get out of here. It's time to start changing the world again. And it starts at Revolution. And they are gonna basically do the match at Revolution. They didn't confirm it. They had a meeting to go to, but they're basically doing the match at Revolution. Young Bucks, Nicholas and Matthew. What'd you think of this, Jensen?
I love this. I mean, we've been talking for a while about how the Young Bucks need some sort of change. Like, just like they've been stagnant for a while, kind of stuck in a spot. And like, at the end of the day, we've said this a lot too, but like, they are EVPs in the company, and the E in All Elite Wrestling, that's them. That's them, Hangman, Cody, and Kenny, of course. But I don't know. It's one of those things where like, Young Bucks have a lot of haters also, right? They're just gonna hate everything that they do. So like, I see that also, but like, I'm interested in this idea. Like, this is a good character change. This makes me think more now that they are gonna beat Sting and Darby, because like the other week I was a little more leaning towards Sting and Darby retaining, or not retaining, but winning. But now I'm like, well, if the story is gonna be more like the Young Bucks cleaning AEW of people like Sting, this would be like kind of the beginning of that, and then they go over this also would have been a good opportunity potentially if like, there's just a thought, like if they could have done this with like Andrade, if they could have set it up where like he was leaving the company already, right, and like the Young Bucks had gotten him first or something, like they could have already kind of started this story of people who have already left, and they can continue it with people who might not re-sign going forward. And that might be the idea, but they could have already done that with Andrade. Like right now you had the opportunity. Someone already has left that was from the WWE previously that kind of doesn't fit the Sting legend mold, but you guys know what I mean. Previous WWE superstar and all that stuff for Andrade. So I think there's a lot of potential with this story. And I like that they tied in them being EVPs in the actual interview also. And they were rude to Renee too. Like they were like, you weren't here when we started, but we'll kind of fill you in because you're kind of in this boat also that we're talking about. It's like, but at the same time, Samoa Joe's a world champion who like I still view as, he's still Samoa Joe. I still think of, the Ring of Honor world title run, TNA. Like Samoa Joe is an indie guy, like in his heart, he's a real, Samoa Joe's credibility is through the roof always. But he is also like he's a former WWE talent himself. You know what I mean? So like, is he included in this? Like who are they actually targeting? But I like the idea. I like the concept of this. I like Nicholas and Matthew Jackson. I like the presentation being different. These guys are wearing like different colors, but they're rocking the mustache. And I don't know. Once again, I can't stress it enough. They needed some sort of change. They need to remind people why they're EVPs in the company, why the Ian All Elite Wrestling is them. And this is hope, I think, for Young Bucks fans and for the Sting and Darby feud. Like, I think this was a good way to kick off an actual feud and story more so than just like, a match between the two, right? We're getting some layers here with the story.
It's going to be that. And, Sting and Darby responded and they said they want the tag team titles as well. So maybe they do get the tag titles, which they should have been going for a long time ago, given their record. Maybe they get the tag titles. And then I do think, the Bucks are probably going to end up winning these tag titles in Sting's last match. That's what I felt coming out of last night with these two particular segments. As far as just the Bucks go. They're the best, but petty little dickheads. And I mean that as a compliment. That is when they're at their best, when they were doing stuff on BTE, which were little inside shots and just taking petty swipes and stuff. That's what made the Young Bucks. The Young Bucks is they went against a lot of stuff that we'd seen. That's why people would get mad at them then, and they're gonna be mad at them now. You mentioned they're gonna have their haters and their detractors. The Young Bucks can't do anything to get people on their side. People have made up their mind on the Young Bucks based on whatever evidence they have of yeah, I don't like them as wrestlers. I don't like them as people. They've already made up their mind. They're going to be able to do anything to try to change that perception of them, because they did kind of try that. They did that with the start of AEW. It's we don't want to win the tag titles immediately. We do want to help build younger guys immediately. They tried to do that. And then it was just the Young Bucks are overrated now. Or it was why don't the Young Bucks actually do this? Aren't they the leaders of the company? No matter what, they're just going to have haters on no matter what they do. So you might as well lean into it, appeal to that core fan base, and tell good stories off of that. And that's what they're doing. The Punk stuff, I know how Punk fans react online. We know how Punk fans react. People aren't going to like that. Tough shit. He's out of the company. They're allowed to do what they want. Punk is allowed to do what he wants on television too. He's taking shots with the who hits somebody backstage, who does that. They're allowed to do this stuff. Whatever. There's going to be no match. So at this point, now you're just looking at who can out petty who. That's all it is.
Yeah, and it's all just someone's word versus someone's word until we know. If we ever find out, because it sounds like there's NDAs involved with pretty much everyone that was actually involved with most of these backstage, scuffles or whatever. Outside of Jericho and the stuff he's tweeted, he's claiming, that he could say stuff and hasn't. And I think it's maybe Ace Steel's wife or something was present apparently. So there's a couple people I guess that can, or maybe I get to technically speaking, I shouldn't say technically speaking. This is just from outside looking in. Because I know there's also, to the contrary, certain lawyers and stuff might say, well, no, you actually do have an NDA also. And you can't say anything either. You think you can. So who knows what we will and won't ever find out about what actually happened. And even then, that's going to be personal retellings of the situation. Even then, I could be, I could be the biggest Kenny Omega fan in the world and think that he's, the most truthful person ever or whatever. But he's still going to have certain bias, towards the Young Bucks in that situation, I'm sure, so you might see things differently than how Ace Steel saw things or something, so it's still going to always be what actually happened, what actually led to all this stuff. But at the end of the day, they, Punk can't really talk about it. The Bucks can't really talk about it, but there's these little petty jabs still, which make us keep thinking about it. But it sucks because, like you said, there can't be a match. So there's no real payoff to any of this. Even Punk talking about himself being the devil on TV last week, I think was an AEW jab a little bit, because of obviously the devil story was their main story for months. And a lot of people were well, if CM Punk was still in the company, it probably should have and would have been him in that mask and stuff like that. So, yeah, I guess I think we're kind of on the same page. I like the idea too, because you brought up last week and again now that the tag titles. I really think the tag titles should be involved in this, especially with Big Bill and Ricky Starks being the tag champions. I think they're doing a good job. I think it's good. It's done Ricky and Bill. It's given them something important to be doing in the meantime, right now. But I would be, I personally prefer if the Young Bucks won them and then Sting and Darby won in Sting's last match, or vice versa. Sting and Darby win the titles now and the Young Bucks take them from them or something. But I'm definitely with you on the idea of the tag titles being involved in the Sting and Darby versus Young Bucks final match.
Yeah, I think that's where it's going to go. We will see. First thing the Young Bucks got to do is they got to show up on Collision. They're EVPs. You got to show up on every show. So no more duck and Collision, Young Bucks.
Yeah, for sure. But I'm trying to think if there's there's some tie-ins with our other topics still potentially, which with our other AEW topic that It's kind of loosely. We'll tie this all together a little bit, but like Hangman's also very interesting to me, and like he ties in with the Young Bucks in a lot of ways. I think
they all got mustaches.
that's part of it. I know that's weird, but it's part of it. Like they all changed their look. Hangman isn't getting the pops like Swerve is. You're totally right about that. We talked about that the other week, but like he's still getting cowboy shit chants. Once he's in the ring, like at the end of the night last night. But like his pop to come out and save Hook after the Samoa Joe match, like he didn't really get a huge pop for that. But like when Swerve emerged in the crowd, whose house? Swerve's house. I mean, it was like immediate. Like it was like everyone was chanting for Swerve, and it's like the fans have clearly chose it. Like Swerve is the guy that they want to see potentially as the next AEW World Champion. They definitely at least want to see him get a shot. But we'll talk about the main event here shortly. But do you think that there is any, or do you think it's, personally, I think it'd be good to keep everyone separate for a while at the very least. Like we've done the elite reunions enough times, in my opinion, in AEW already. And at a certain point, it's just going to kind of like lose most of the interest that I would have. I don't know where you go from where we already were with this thing, with the elite, breaking up and reuniting. So do you think they should stay separate, like keep the Young Bucks away from the Hangman, like in the lead up in the match with Sting and everything?
I think in the lead up to that, yes. Here's my issue with potentially reuniting the elite in this way. The Young Bucks are heels. They should not go away from being a heel anytime soon. Like you've done the work to lead up to this point to get them to the heel. They're doing great work. It's only one segment, but I enjoyed it. And we know they're really good as heels. I wouldn't change Hangman to also go heel to be this, to go along with them. One, because I feel like that's a kind of a power group. When you're talking about two EVPs and then Hangman, it almost takes away from what they're doing with Adam Cole and the Undisputed Kingdom. Is like, oh, now we have another very strong power group here as heels. Like the Adam Cole group should be presented as still a top heel group. That they ran the company for all those months to rid it of MJF, everything. And now it's
and
like,
you also have the Patriarchy, which is like a main heel group, which is somewhat similar.
Yeah. I mean, these we're talking about literal EVPs that they've brought up on the show that they are now EVPs. So that's going to supersede any type of whatever power you think you have. They are more powerful. I wouldn't turn Hangman heel. I would continue to work to establish him as a babyface and get him back to that level that we've seen him at. I know Swerve is getting the bigger reactions now, and Joe is even getting big. They did great work with Hook last night, turning him into a really fighting from underneath babyface that we'll talk about here in a second. But I would still go with Hangman as one of your top babyfaces. So maybe down the line they do reunite once Kenny comes back, and then maybe you can make them a powerful heel group. I would wait a ways to actually do that.
Yeah, I'm with you 100% on that. I would wait, but the Hangman stuff is interesting because he definitely, like, I want to see him and Samoa Joe, and they'll have a great match. But it's almost like the fans are going to be more behind Samoa Joe almost if they wrestled, I think. Samoa Joe is so over. Like, even though he's a bad guy, he's a heel, but like he's getting a babyface reaction pretty much, even against Hook for the most part. I mean, Hook was getting a reaction too, of course. Sorry if you keep rubbing my eye. My contact's killing me right now. I might need to change this out. Yeah, I would keep the Young Bucks and Hangman separate for the time being. But them all having this, the mustaches and the kind of the character changes and stuff all at the same time is also, I don't know, it's worth maybe keeping our eyes on, I guess.
Yeah, and we'll see if they do bring it all together. There's certainly a story there to tell with them. I just wouldn't go back to it right yet until Omega's status, because as much as I do like Hangman, he's not an EVP.
Right.
That's just not part of his title. He's part of the group, but he's not actually an EVP. So you don't need to go to that right now. We'll see if they go down the line. Tommy says, sorry if it's Sting and Flair versus the Bucks. Hey, that actually makes more sense if you want to rid of old people, making it Sting instead of Darby actually makes a lot of sense.
True.
And Cody
funny.
says, Hook and Joe ruled. Timeless Toni is so damn funny. Toni was not part of the spotlight, but she doing the promo from Luther's shoulders, wanting to punch people in the box.
Yeah. Oh, I think I lost Jeremy for a second. You're back.
All right. Yes.
But last thing I heard you say was punching in the box. So.
Yeah. Well, then my decided to punch me in the box and cut out. Yeah, Timeless Toni Storm rolls. And Deonna just throwing the shoe back at her, of course. But Deonna playing like the straight woman off of Tony's very over the top character is good stuff. So I'm looking forward to that match when it eventually happens. Deonna, I'm glad she's immediately coming in and being presented as a big star. And yeah, the Timeless Toni stuff continues to be different in a good way from everything else on the show.
Yeah, and people, even like AEW haters for the most part that I see that generally hate on AEW seem to like the Toni Storm character. Maybe they're biased because they like Toni because she was in the WWE before. I don't know, but like I think everyone is like, even if you don't like AEW, I think everyone's in agreement that this gimmick change for Toni, the whole time with Toni Storm thing has been really good. It's been funny and it's reinvigorated her career. Like, not that it was like in a rut, but you know what I mean. Like, this is definitely, I mean, she's doing great work. So good for her. Good for her for thinking outside of the box. It's similar in certain ways to like the Broken Hardy. Like when we first started seeing that, it was like so different and out there and bizarre, but it was like, oh, they figured this out though. This works really, really well for them. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and it definitely is, 100% working. The other AW spotlight is Hook and Samoa Joe. Like the double standard or whatever Tony wanted to try to claim on this. I think most AEW fans were actually very excited for Hook against Samoa Joe, and they delivered a match that I felt they needed to deliver. They did not make Hook go out and be the 50-50 kind of match with multiple kickouts. People were mad about the kick out of the Muscle Buster at one. It was not this long, epic match. One, I don't know if Hook can do that yet. Most of his matches are kind of sub 10 minutes unless they're like street fights. But Joe dominated, beat up Hook right in front of his father. Hook got some hope spots in. Very not Cena, Brock in length, because that match was, I think, longer than a lot of people realize. But the layout was very similar of like, this dude's a monster with a lot of experience, and Hook's not John Cena, but he's just beating a dude that is completely overmatched right now. The other guy's good enough to where he's going to get some hope spots in, but he's clearly an overmatched guy. Joe sold everything well. I thought Hook sold everything well. This match was, as much as I wanted to just be a 30-second squash of like, hey, there's levels to this game. I understand why they went this way, and I think this is the way they should have gone rather than, hey, let's do a 15-minute back and forth, try to create an epic. I thought this was great.
Yeah, and I remember you saying last week that you were kind of envisioning in your own mind it being just like a squash and them showing levels. And in certain ways they did that, but yeah, like, so I think
they were never, as much as I wanted to, like 30 minutes or 30 seconds done and be like, what the fuck is this kid? They were never going to do that. I completely know that. I know, but I wanted it. I wanted, basically, in my own facetious way, I wanted them to show Hooks in over his head. And that's exactly what they did.
Yes. And the Muscle Buster one thing, that's just kicking out at one. That's just all that is, for anybody who has a problem with that, is simply like reinforcing the concept that, like, outside of the Samoa Joe match, Hook is pretty much unbeatable still. He lost to Jack Perry. We'll remember that. We'll talk about Jack in a little bit. But that's what I gathered from that. Like, most people are not going to kick out of the Muscle Buster, period, and it's rarely ever going to happen at one, maybe never again. But they were just trying their best to, like, just establish Hook as, like, even though he's getting worked by Samoa Joe right now, it's because Samoa Joe's the world champion with 20 years experience. Like, but Hook is still badass enough to take a Muscle Buster like that and kick out. And I mean, Samoa Joe beat the hell out of him. Like that was a real like initiation almost in certain ways, probably. Like, all right, kid, like we love you. You've gotten a great push up to this point. You're beating everybody. But this is some of your dues right here. Like you're getting in the room with Samoa Joe and like we're gonna make you look great, which I think Hook did look great, but Joe was laying it in there. Like those chops were stiff. Everything Joe does, I saw someone tweet this also. Like, I wish I could remember who it was, but like everything Joe does is just so like it seems like it has intent behind it. He's so good at that. Even like when he did like the Death Valley driver towards the end of the match, like the DVD isn't his finisher. He's not going to beat someone with that move. But like the way he just like pauses and just like snaps people when he goes down to the mat, like it just hits stuff different and it just looks so good and so believable. And I love the finish too. It got to the point where like, Hook kicks out of the Muscle Buster and he gets this big surge of energy, this big comeback. And on commentary, Taz is rooting for him and they're all rooting for him. And they're like, if this is it, like this is the last ditch effort. Like this is, if you're going to make a move, this is where this is your one opportunity. And Hook hits these back-to-back clotheslines. And when Samoa Joe started standing up with his back towards Hook, I was like, oh, here it comes. Like he's going to go for the red rum. Like, let's see what happens. Hook went for the red rum, but once again, and they talked about this on commentary also, of course, if anyone's going to know how to defend the red rum or any kind of rear naked choke, it's going to be Samoa Joe. So he blocked the choke with his arm and then got the wrist control, did an overhead throw and put him in his own coquina clutch rear naked choke. And then Hook didn't tap, once again reinforcing that Hook's a badass. Hook kicked out of one of the Muscle Buster. Hook did not tap to the rear naked choke, and he his hands went down just like MJF's, which will probably be a theme throughout this Samoa Joe title run. I'd imagine we're going to see a lot of people, their arms going down 3 times, and eventually, I don't know when, I don't know how long this run lasts, but I'm really liking what we got so far. Eventually. 1, 2, eventually someone's gonna woo, and people are gonna go crazy because we've seen Samoa Joe beat so many people that way with this title, I think. So there's all things building here. And Samoa Joe being the face of your company, like the main champion, I like that a lot. I like how he's conducting himself in interviews. I like the stuff he's saying, how he's presenting himself. Yeah, it's great. I mean, and he keeps it real. Like he's one of these guys who's like, he's like Cody in a lot of ways, and like he's a blend between the old school and the new school. Like he's okay with talking about a little bit kind of what's going on. He knows the fans are in on a lot of this stuff. Like he's not naive, but he also protects the business and his co-workers as well. Like he won't give you too much, and he's still gonna. So even when it comes to like the backstage stuff, it'll be like, listen, like yeah, something happened, but I'm Samoa Joe. You think I hadn't seen stuff like that before? Like I don't care. Like my focus is doing our job. Like I want people talking about the in-ring stuff, the on the screen stuff, like the behind the scenes stuff. Like I can handle that. We can handle that. Like this stuff's not new to me. And I think I like that mentality. Like all he cares about is like the fans putting on a good show, defending the title. He wants challengers coming after him. And there was like it's like at the end of Dynamite the end of Dynamite last night, you had multiple title challengers standing right there ready for their shots. And I like that idea. People want to be the world champion. And Samoa Joe isn't being a coward and running from people. Samoa Joe's saying, get in line. Like you lay your claim as to why you want a shot at this title. If it makes sense, we'll do it. That's badass. Like I love that kind of presentation in a champion.
Samoa Joe has just always been about business, and there's always been a very easy way to book Samoa Joe. You make him kill a bunch of people.
Yep.
This worked for ROH during that reign. This worked for TNA during the early stages when he was undefeated and X Division champion. Anywhere Samoa Joe goes, you just have him beat people, and he gets people over because he's very good. Even though he's winning, he's very good at telling the story in the ring and making people look good in the ring. And then he continues to get over because, of course, he's winning. Like this has always worked for Samoa Joe. You just have him beat people. And for some reason, sometimes companies just don't get that, or they try to make him something that he's not, or they try to do too much of the sports entertainment stuff, which he's good at, mind you. He is good at that. But you just have Samoa Joe beat people, and it always rules.
Yeah, that's super true. I mean, the more that you try to do, and this isn't even his fault, by the way, like, but the more that you try to do, like in TNA, yeah, it worked awesome when he was doing the X Division stuff up until, like, you know, the Kurt Angle stuff and all that. But then eventually they, like, painted his face and, like, try to make him, like, Taz's, like, lackey and all. And it's like, who wants to see that? And in WWE, I think a lot of it was just, and I don't even know how to explain this. Honestly, WWE and Samoa Joe will probably be the only ones to, like, on it, like, be able to really explain it. But, like, what the hell happened in the WWE with him to where they were so sure that, like, to make him a commentator and stuff? Like, I know he had health stuff.
Yeah,
like,
he was coming off of a concussion and everything, and they weren't sure. They, WWE is very protective of this stuff. They have weird ideas for different people anyway, as far as just who they, like, oh, we think you're better as a producer, commentator, general manager instead of wrestling type of thing. But to start, it was because he had kind of back-to-back injuries that they wanted to be protective.
Which I understand that, and I know that he was also helping scout NXT and stuff, which is, like, that's a great role for him, like especially internationally and stuff. Him to get, like, Japanese and, like, talents that, like, he's familiar with, or, like, connections he has from the past where he can go find, like, their students and stuff and, like, evaluate them. Like, Samoa Joe would be a great talent scout for sure for any company. But I guess my question with that more is, like, because I know we've seen it with Danielson, but Danielson took a lot of years off and stuff, and Edge took almost like a decade off and all that. And I think that I'm obviously no scientist, but I think that there's merit in the idea of being able to, at least to some degree, rehabilitate most things, like, especially, like, I shouldn't say especially, but including your brain. Like, I don't think everything's, like, completely, curable and all that stuff, unfortunately, but I think that there are certain injuries that with all this new technology, it's possible. Like with Edge, for instance, and Bryan Danielson, a lot of what they talked about for their comeback was all this new, like, like the what do they call it? Cryogenic, and that kind of stuff. Like, and I think that there's truth to that. But once again, that was like that took years and years and years. That's where I'm like, it's just such a, I don't know. Maybe I shouldn't talk about this because, like, I don't know the science, but my point is, like, Samoa Joe clearly, like, look at him. Like, he can, it's crazy that we went from, like, this guy may not be able to do this anymore to, like, look at this guy. Like, he's incredible still, and he's clearly completely fine to do this. But if he was still in the WWE, he probably wouldn't be in the ring still, which is kind of crazy thing.
Under the Triple H regime, he'd be in the ring. It was also Vince who I don't think got Samoa Joe. Because remember, they released him the first time.
Right.
And then within, like, 24 hours, Triple H was calling him, William Regal was calling him and be like, hey, you want to come back? We'll just keep you here at NXT. They still like kept him out of the ring, but then he got back in the ring. He won the NXT title. I believe he got COVID. And then so that's why he had to drop the NXT title. And then he got released again. Triple H was the one who initially brought him to NXT as well, and his shirt sold so well that first debut that they're like, oh yeah, we gotta, like, actually sign this guy to a real deal and not just that kind of a pay-per kind of deal here.
And they kept him as Samoa Joe based on that too, which they weren't really doing at the time. They were changing people's names still, and they were like, Samoa Joe came in, all these Samoa Joe t-shirts flew off the shelves. Like, we should maybe not change people's names when they come in and see how this goes. So I think that was a big deal too.
So I think if he was still in WWE under the Triple H regime, I think he'd be, I don't know, he wouldn't be this, he wouldn't be the world champion, but I definitely think he would be in the ring and doing something substantial compared to, I just don't think Vince didn't really get him. Vince didn't really get a lot of people. So I don't think that was a thing. He did well with what he did on the main roster stuff. The AJ feud. Look, did it need AJ's wife and all of this stuff? No, but Joe ruled at that. I thought there was way more story to tell with, like, Roman. And I think there could actually be, if he was in WWE now, there could be some good stuff with, like, the bloodline and everything. The Brock stuff Paul Heyman, like, he arguably should have beaten Brock. I think someone understood. Yeah, Maggie said it. Like, Joe should have won at Great Balls of Fire. Like, I would have been fine with that. He was great on commentary. I know that wasn't like a role that people wanted him in, but he was so damn good at it. Samoa Joe's good at anything you give him. He's the best when you just let him go out there and destroy people.
Yes. That was the one and only Great Balls of Fire pay-per-view, wasn't it?
Yeah.
That was the only time they did that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I remember in the build to that, Samoa Joe had like really good promos right in Brock's face, and he was one of the few people that could like get away with that. Like, not only with Brock, because when you're dealing with Brock Lesnar, you know, he's obviously a professional. Obviously, he's there to make a ton of money. That's what Brock Lesnar does. He's better at that than pretty much anyone is, as far as like negotiating and negotiating against other companies and stuff and getting massive paydays. So I definitely respect that about Brock, but at the same time, Brock also is going to pick and choose who he does and doesn't work with and how people speak to him in public. Like, so like for Samoa Joe to be able to like hold his ground in Brock Lesnar's face is a big deal too. Cause like, obviously Brock has respect for Samoa Joe, and in their match, like it was a hard hitting match. Like, you know, there's respect there, and you know, there's respect from Paul Heyman. I know that goes a long way with Brock also. Like, even if Brock doesn't know a ton about somebody, if Paul comes to him and he's like, hey, this is like one of my guys, or like, this is a guy that like you're going to make money with this dude. Like, CM Punk, for instance, is probably a good example of that. Like, I have no idea what Brock Lesnar's initial idea of CM Punk was. And obviously Punk was proven by the time they wrestled each other. He was selling a lot of merchandise and stuff. But like, I'd imagine that was also probably like Paul being like, because like the same kind of thing kind of happened with Moxley. Like, the Moxley didn't get anything on him. Like, for whatever reason, there just wasn't that level of respect, right? It was a different thing what we got. But like when CM Punk and Brock went one-on-one and stuff, like, you know, that was a real feud with real matches with, you know, like Punk was right up there with Brock as far as like perception. So like
Moxley wanted to do like skewers and weed whackers and stuff.
I can only imagine Brock Lesnar's face if you were to bring something like that up. So we got these things called gusset plates now, and they're usually made to like hold bridges up. But we're gonna stick them in your arm and in your forehead. Yeah, but
actually, let me just go out there and toss you around, dude. I don't need to do all of this. That was one of the most disappointing matches ever.
Yeah, that was a bummer. Because I was a big Ambrose fan. Like I always liked Moxley. You know, even back. I really liked his run in FCW too. Like, I was paying attention to that at the time because like he was feuding with like William Regal and that was also because people forget he was initially supposed to feud with Mick Foley. That video went viral of him like getting in Foley's face and like that work shoot thing. And so like I was always pulling for Moxley. And then the Brock match just like killed it. Or in a bad way, like killed his momentum in a lot of ways. But that all said, back to Samoa Joe. Now, you know, at the end of the match last night, Samoa Joe beats Hook, and they continue to keep Hook looking strong, even after the Muscle Buster kick out at 1, even after, you know, everything in that match itself. He's telling Joe after the match, he keeps getting up. It's kind of like the old Jeff Hardy Undertaker ladder match thing where Hook keeps standing up and saying, that's all you've got? That's all you've got, Samoa Joe? Samoa Joe keeps getting back to the ring, Muscle Buster. You know, gets back up. That's all you got? And before Joe can do more to Hook, Hangman comes out, you know, saves the day for Hook, but also Swerve comes out in the crowd. And when I mentioned this earlier, Swerve gets a much bigger reaction than Hangman. I like both guys a lot, but it is what it is. And then Hook, Hangman helps pick Hook up, and Hook kind of like rejects it because he wants to, you know, get out on his own. So, you know, and they accomplished a lot of stuff in this. Like, Hook's on a new level now. Like, he was already the FTW champion. He already had lost only one match and all that stuff. But, like, his perception is going to be even better now coming out of the Samoa Joe match, I think. Even though he lost it, it was the way that everything happened. He looked really good. And you also have it lined up right now where Hangman and Swerve both want shots at the championship. So, and then you still have, they didn't mention it last night, I don't think, but you still have Wardlow. You know, he's the plan is Wardlow win that title and handing it to Adam Cole. So, you know, there are multiple people waiting now. So how do you think this plays out, Jeremy? Like, do you think that they did they do Hangman and Swerve again to figure this out, or do you think they let, unlike the UFC, like, because the UFC gets criticized for this a lot, like killing off challengers, like making them fight each other instead of just like waiting and like, you know, so you have more people for the champion? Would you do them kind of like one at a time, like do like Hangman and then Swerve, or would you have them wrestle each other to figure out like number one contender again and then do that?
I think they're gonna do a triple threat match at Revolution. I think that's where they're gonna go. I think it's gonna be. I don't think Wardlow's gonna factor in just yet. I think right now Wardlow's just gonna stand and pop his titties and everything, and then when the time is right, maybe he'll go. We're still a ways away from Revolution. Like, it's not until the first weekend of March, so it's a little less than 2 months, but there's still a lot of time before Revolution. They could easily figure out, like, they could do a number one contenders match. They can do Swerve and Hangman again. I worry about doing that match simply because I think Swerve should win. Thank you. I think Swerve should win. And I don't know if you want to beat Hangman 3 times against Swerve. I love Swerve's promo, by the way, where he was like, you could. I would take Hangman against an army of men. I would take Hangman against God. I wouldn't take Hangman against me. He's proven he can't beat me. So I do worry about like beating Hangman 3 times against Swerve, and I also worry about. I think Swerve should be getting that title shot. I think he's the guy right now. And you got to strike when you have that and not just have him lose to Hangman so you can give Hangman the title shot. That's why I think a triple threat match makes the most sense, because you don't have to beat either guy in a one-on-one scenario. Yeah, they'll have to lose in a triple threat scenario, or one of them would win and maybe Joe takes the pinfall. But you get protected a little bit more than beating each other in that one-on-one scenario. And, you know, you can tell stories coming off of that as well. Let's say Hangman wins the title. He pins Joe. Swerve can immediately be like, you pinned Joe. You still never pinned me. You immediately set up a program off of that. So there's ways to go with that. On the thing with Hook, real quickly, I hope they did a great job last night. What I always say is, what is next? You can't just now make Hook beat a bunch of randos and then defend this FTW title with no real story and everything. You've established this guy as being able to look credible against your world champion. You got to elevate him now to another level that he was not on previously. He can't just go back to just like squashing dudes with no story. People want more out of that now. You've told them he can do more. Now you have to actually give him more.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. Do you think they should keep the FTW championship around?
It's an unsanctioned title. Like, I mean, I know what they're sanctioning the matches.
Yeah, right. I know, it's like totally sanctioned. It's such a weird.
It's not really. I guess you can keep it. He can hold on to it, but it's not a title that has a whole lot of meaning. He looks cool with it, but like it doesn't do a whole lot for me. I would honestly be fine if he just like, if he or Taz, whichever way you want to play this, of like, you know, you don't need this anymore. Like, this was holding you back or something. However you want to play it, but just go back and retire it. Like, it's truly one of the more meaningless titles in AEW, and they got a lot of titles that don't mean a whole lot throughout the show.
Well, like I said the other week, it's like, if you want to classify them as quote unquote like mid-card titles, technically speaking, you got the Continental Championship, you have the International Championship. Combine those 2 titles, you got the Intercontinental Championship, you got the AEW the TNT Championship, and you've got the FTW Championship. I mean, it would have made perfect sense last night, I think, if this was title versus title, because like if Samoa Joe would have won the FTW title and just retired it, he would have been a great, final champion in the record book for that too. He has ties with Taz himself. I mean, but I mean, the title does look good on him. I see Kai say that in the chat. Like, I agree. Like, aesthetically speaking, like Hook looks cool with the title, and it was his dad's title from ECW. I'm very aware of like the lineage and everything, but like, it's the same kind of thing. We're all on the same page. It's just like they already have multiple championships that kind of all mean pretty much the same thing. And the only cop out with this is calling it unsanctioned, but like once again, they are sanctioning the matches. So how is that it makes absolutely no sense for you
It's
to call
basically
something an
unsanctioned. It's basically unsanctioned in the fact that like all the matches are street fights, and so it's like there's no real rules for this title. I think that's the meaning of unsanctioned for it.
I guess. Yeah. Either way, we're on the same page about it. That I don't think Cook really needs the title anymore, but I mean it's cool, you know, you get him on the action figures and stuff now and stuff too. I mean, like it's I get it, but I thought it was cool. It was cool, but like the title's been back for like 5 years now, and I just don't see really the point in it anymore. I think Hook should go after like the international title or the continental title or something like that. Like focus on a sanctioned title outside the world title. You almost won the world championship. Try to win a sanctioned title.
Yeah, I mean he should. Again, you got to elevate him off of this, and I think kind of keeping the title, the FTW title around, could hold him back in that regard. That's why, you know, I said Taz can say, you know, you no longer need this. You've graduated from this. Like this might hold you back now, like because you feel you have an obligation to this title. Because if you're just like, oh, he's the FTW champion, we got a title on him. That to me, that's not enough anymore. It's just not.
Yeah.
All right. Move on to our WWE spotlight.
I need to finish the story. In the WWE, the story never finishes.
Cody Rhodes and Drew McIntyre are maybe not finishing their stories. Cody, you know, came out and he said, "I don't win the Rumble," and then Drew came out and said, "No, you're not," and Drew completely destroyed him on the microphone.
Okay, so I think at this point, you guys know. I mean, me and Jeremy are doing this show together for how long? Like almost 2 years, probably.
Yeah,
my close to 2
been a
years.
while.
I definitely don't create the titles for the videos. Because
The
I would
thumbnail was
never-
good though. You got to give me credit on the thumbnail.
Yeah, the thumbnail was great. Yes, I thought you did a great job with the thumbnail, but the title, I read that and I was like, Drew McIntyre cooks Cody Rhodes. He's trolling me. Now, I will say Drew McIntyre did great on the microphone. And here's the thing. I love both of these guys. Like, I'm a big Drew McIntyre fan. I talked about that a lot last week. I'm a big Cody Rhodes fan, obviously. Cody Rhodes is my favorite. So, but I like this back and forth because there's a lot of similarities between these guys. Pulling a Drew when you leave the WWE, pulling a Cody when you leave the WWE. These guys both laid the blueprints for what the company actually tells people to do now. Like if you get let go, it's like, listen, do what they did and you'll probably wind up back here making even more money than you're making right now. Just go raise your value. And I like that Drew brought up the Chosen Ones, because even I had forgotten about that tag team. When he mentioned it, I was like, oh, that's right. They were tag team champions, because Cody was really, it was like him and then like him and Sandow, and it was like Cody was kind of like jumping partner to partner for a while, and Drew was like really directionless at the time, but had been deemed the Chosen One by Vince McMahon on television already. So I liked, and I don't think that Drew cooked Cody. I'm not going to agree with that, but I think that this wasn't like some 10-8 Cody round or a 10-8 Drew. This was like, it's about as close to 10-10 as you can get, I think. This is pretty even.
It was about a 10-7 Drew, I think.
10-7 Drew. Yeah, of course you're going to throw that out there now. You wouldn't give the 10-8 to Drew and Punk last week, but you'll give a 10-7 to Cody and Drew on an even round. What's Cecil Peoples? Is that the guy who's still?
Yeah, Cecil Peoples. He was always the terrible judge.
Yeah, I don't think he does it anymore. I don't know if they still do it or not anymore. Cecil Peoples. I don't know. I haven't heard that name in a minute, I don't think. But I also haven't been paying as close attention, to be fair. Either way, yeah, man, I like this though, because once again, this was all true. Like they both went on the microphone, and I don't think any of them told any lies or even like exaggerated anything. It was just like, this is what happened. This is our past. This is, we wrestled each other on the indies before I came back, and you beat me, and like this was a real back and forth between these two guys. And at the end of it, Cody asked him, when we wrestled each other, who won? And he dropped the mic. And I was like, that's great. Because then Cody, Cody's obviously the baby face, but like Drew isn't really a heel. Like he isn't being a heel. Like
he's a heel.
He is a heel, but like in my mind, like the things he's saying and doing isn't really like it's all justified.
Right.
So it's like, even when it's against Cody, who I love, I'm like, I'm not mad at Drew for saying the stuff he's saying. I think he's spitting facts also. So like, this is really good stuff. And I know they're doing Cody and Punk face to face on Monday.
Oh boy.
We'll talk about that, I'm sure. I was hoping that was going to be tomorrow because I'm still on the fence. I don't know if I'll be at SmackDown or not tomorrow. It's in Atlanta. It'll probably be a game time decision if I go or not. But if I knew they were going to do Punk and Cody, in the ring on SmackDown tomorrow in Atlanta, there's a really good chance I would go. But we'll talk about that.
Why would you want to witness your favorite just get put down live?
Because he's not going to get put down live. I think that's going to be another 10-8, maybe even a 10-7 for Cody. Cody's got a lot of ammo here. Anyway, we'll get to that next week. We'll talk about that when it happens next week. And by the way, it's going to be a theme for pretty much all the way through WrestleMania, y'all. We're going to hear a lot about Cody Rhodes on this show. Last year, our most viewed episode, which I think last I checked had like 13,000 views or something, which is really good for our show. It was the episode that Cody had he had just lost at WrestleMania. So everybody tuned in to get our thoughts on that. And that was, so we're going to talk a lot about Cody, whether it's good or bad. You're going to be hearing about it week after week after week through WrestleMania. That's where we're at right now, Cody and Drew, but I like it. I like this. And I want to see the two wrestle each other. They'll have a really good match with each other if this happens. It's just a matter of like when.
Cody and Drew, so there's the cloud of Seth Rollins hanging over things. I don't know if you saw this, Jensen. Rollins may or may not be banged up with a knee injury coming out of the match with Jinder.
Yes.
And depending on the severity of the injury, like that's going to change some plans. Let's say Rollins can't make it to WrestleMania. What do you do?
Wait, no, I'm sorry. This is a real knee injury? I thought you were talking like him selling on Raw. Okay.
No, this is reportedly a real knee injury.
I did not know that until you just said that. That could change things. I mean, it's supposed to be CM Punk and Seth Rollins.
Likely, yes.
And how they get there, I'm not sure. I mean, Punk could win the Royal Rumble, or I mean, there's ways with the Elimination Chamber and stuff. There's ways to get people into these title matches for WrestleMania, two nights. But also, we'll talk about another spotlight. They were pretty heavy in the Becky and Rhea thing about like winning the main event at WrestleMania. So now part of me is like, are they going to main event one of the nights? And like, that's going to box out like either Punk and Seth, or I mean, obviously Roman's going to main event one of the nights, obviously, but you got me thinking a little bit that some of the stuff I thought was like for sure going to be like the main events or whatever, maybe not, but I don't know, man. So like, is there an actual fear that Rollins might miss WrestleMania?
There's a fear that it's not great, and WrestleMania is still 3 months away, but we don't know the severity of it. It's a knee. Could he rest, rehab, not wrestle again until WrestleMania, but still keep the title? That's a possibility. Do you go that route? Let's say, again, this is my hypothetical to you. Let's say Seth cannot wrestle at WrestleMania. What do you do with the title?
Well, you probably put it on Damian Priest like immediately because you have the out there with the Money in the Bank. And you can play that off of Seth being injured, obviously, and Damian just takes advantage and beats him without even having a real match or anything. You could just similar to when CM Punk beat Edge for it. Like he just comes out and pins him pretty much. But from there, because here's the thing, and this honestly isn't even Damian Priest's fault, because I think the Judgment Day has been like, they've really exceeded expectations, like as far as like being a group in my mind, especially from the time that they started as a group to where they're at now. But I'm really not interested in Damian Priest being the world champion. Like I'm really not. Like, especially now that you have Punk back, you have Cody obviously on that show, you have Rollins, you have all these guys, Drew, like Damian Priest is pretty down that list for me personally. Like, and it is, once again, not really his fault. It's just like with the situation of who all is available now. I don't think Damian Priest really makes that much sense to be the world champion. So that's, you have the out of getting the title off of Seth that way. But then to answer your question about actually at WrestleMania, I know they're in this weird spot because like Cody would be the obvious, because outside of losing to Roman and one of the Brock matches, I don't think he's lost at all since returning to the WWE. And he would, on paper, obviously he lays he makes the most sense and he's the most over and everything. Like he should be the world champion of Raw because he's on the Raw roster, but he's actually concerned with the SmackDown championship because of this stupid brand split that doesn't actually exist. So like, it's a weird spot for Cody to be in because even throughout Seth's run with this title, the elephant in the room has been Cody because like Seth doesn't call out Cody. Cody doesn't even call out for the title. He does everything but that. He wrestles Brock instead. He wrestles Shinsuke instead, but he's not like him finishing the story has nothing to do with that championship that Seth holds. But realistically speaking, this is probably when you would want to put the world title on Cody because it's like if Seth can't go, you put that championship on Cody or you put it on Punk and you probably do Punk versus, you still want to do Cody and Roman, though. That's the problem.
Cody's not getting that match.
But he's not getting that match because of The Rock.
Yeah.
So you're probably, oh my God. So you probably would need to do Punk versus Cody. You probably got to get the title on one of them before WrestleMania. And then you have to have Cody hold that thing until him and Roman, and then you have to unify all of it. What a mess.
It might be overthinking on your part, because I know you just want to get to Cody and Roman. My thought was Priest does just immediately cash in. Seth comes out on crutches, whatever, and he's basically about to relinquish the title, and Priest just cashes in on him and just takes the title. Like, there's no reason in my mind, if Seth does have to relinquish, why he actually does that and why you just don't have Priest cash in. Then you're off the Money in the Bank briefcase as well. You don't have to worry about that. And then I think you can set up Priest against Drew, maybe at Rumble. I know Drew's in the Rumble, but maybe depending on, I guess, when this is going to happen. There's only a week before the Rumble, so maybe the night after the Rumble or 2 nights, Raw after Rumble. Priest and Drew. Drew wins the title. You set up Drew and Punk for the possible Mania match there. Maybe even Cody gets in that as a triple threat because I don't know where Cody stands with WrestleMania right now. He ain't getting the Roman match. I'm trying to warn you. I'm trying to tell you. It's Rock. Rock's getting that match.
Is there any way that Cody wins the title from Roman before WrestleMania? But Roman's not going to wrestle between the Royal Rumble and Mania, is he?
No, Roman's not even like advertised for this event. It rules. I mean, he's wrestling at the Rumble, but like he's not losing. He's not losing.
But then they're going to have multiple big shows between then and WrestleMania.
What do you think? What do you think of my idea for the Rumble? It's Cody, Drew, and Punk. They're all in the ring. They're fighting it out. 29 people have entered the Rumble, right? 29 people have entered. They're all fighting it out. 30 the countdown. 30 hits. Burn. If you smell. Here comes The Rock. And then Cody, Drew, and Punk just eliminate themselves. They're just like, oh, we're screwed. Rock's here. And they just like jump over the top rope. What do you think of this, Jensen?
It's the worst idea of all time.
Why?
You know why. That was the troll question. You know why. Yeah, they would never just bury your top three baby face. Oh,
no, but then they like the Raw after, like they don't acknowledge it at all. They just come out and they're just like, we were the final 3 in the Rumble and like we couldn't get it done. But now that the world title is vacant, Seth's title is vacant, we're gonna fight at WrestleMania. They just don't even acknowledge that like they just eliminated themselves and The Rock won.
So this is such a bad idea. And you know it's a bad idea. That'd be so funny though. Like, all right, like we decided collectively that this other championship is what we wanted to fight for. So we cleared it up for The Rock. All right, we cleared it up for The Rock. The Rock can go finish my story instead over there.
You're getting it.
Yeah, and then I got it the second you said it. I just think it's a terrible idea. But I mean, I do think it's possible The Rock might be in the Royal Rumble, though. I mean, I guess that could happen. Like maybe even wins the Royal Rumble, and that's how he gets to Roman. I mean, you could easily do that if you wanted to, but I also don't think you want to risk The Rock getting hurt at all before WrestleMania. And he was blown up doing the promo. Sorry, go ahead.
Well, that's why they just eliminate themselves, so you don't risk The Rock getting hurt.
I'm not trying to feed into this idea. I'm not trying to validate this. But no, it is concerning. Obviously, the whole is Cody going to get boxed out of WrestleMania thing is probably at this point. So sucks.
I feel this is a great idea. That's just me. All right.
But I like the idea of Drew and Punk potentially is a good idea.
Look, if Seth can't go, I think Drew and Punk is going to be a major direction. And I don't know where Cody fits in with all of this because I still think The Rock is getting that match. And so I don't know where you go with Cody. I don't. And
also, I mean, Brock Lesnar is going to factor in somehow to WrestleMania. And he's going to be something.
Yeah, I don't think it's going to be world title stuff, though. I mean, maybe it is, but I don't know if it's going to be world title stuff.
I don't think so either. But it's always worth keeping in the back of your mind. But I think Brock is going to be more like attraction type stuff, kind of similar to what we saw with like Omos last year. Like it'll be someone big. Like basically, you just need to every year you need to figure out an impressive way of seeing Brock throw someone around.
Yeah, exactly. The other WWE spotlight is Rhea and Becky. They did mention possibly main eventing WrestleMania. It seems like it's set up for Becky to win the Rumble. I don't think that's the route they're going to go. I think it's more likely Becky wins like some type of number one contenders match, maybe at Elimination Chamber. They do that. But I've been saying, a lot of people have been saying Becky and Rhea is the match at WrestleMania. That's your biggest match you can do. That's a match you've kind of teased through small interactions. This was not a small interaction on Raw. I thought Becky cut a really great promo to set things up. And look, Rhea needs something substantial. I think she's going to face Nia in Australia so she can be babyface over there and be the conquering babyface. And then Becky comes out the following night or whenever on Raw and gets it rolling to WrestleMania. But what'd you think of this?
I thought it was a good promo. Becky basically a lot of this was based around like Becky saying, like we're similar in a lot of ways, but there's stuff that I've accomplished that you haven't. Like I've main evented WrestleMania and won the main event. Like you've been at WrestleMania. Like you look like you're going to be in the spot. Like but Becky was also saying I've also been in that spot before, where like I was in that spot and didn't win, but like then came back better and like became that person. And so there's parallels, but the one thing that was kind of cheesy about it was Becky being like, I need to win the Royal Rumble. I need to point at the sign. And it's like, are we really I know the sign point's a thing, but do we have to literally talk about pointing at the sign? Just point at the sign. Like we know it's a thing. But it's like, I need to point at the WrestleMania sign. I need to go on. And it's like, okay, cool. Like, but I think that it's a good matchup. I think it's pretty clear that that's going to happen at WrestleMania. But like you said, are they going to do it that obviously? Like basically tell us on this past Monday, okay, Becky's winning the Royal Rumble. I feel like they wouldn't be that obvious about it. But, a lot of the time though, if you're obvious about something, if it's a good story and it works, like I don't really care if it's obvious or not, if it's good. But I like the promo. I mean, once again, it came off very real. And it was also about like their histories too, like coming from like outside of the US and like having to make names for themselves, internationally, and then coming over and not really getting kind of being overlooked a lot at first. Like Becky was always good, but like in NXT, it was like the competition there it was her and Charlotte and Sasha and Bayley, and like there was a lot of talent. And Becky, if I remember correctly, I don't think Becky won the NXT Women's title in like that original.
No, that's why she went back. Yeah, that's why she went back last year.
That's right. So, and then Rhea kind of similar in certain ways. Like she was a part of the Mae Young Classic, I believe, and then she was on the UK brand and stuff, kind of like off people's radar, and then now she's like one of the most over acts in the company. So like there are certain parallels there that I think make sense that they brought up in the promo. And I'm looking forward to it. I think it's going to be a good match, and I do expect that to be at WrestleMania. So I'm with you there.
Yeah, this has been the direction. Again, they've teased it a lot. They've had the little walk by interactions. It seemed pretty set. This is where we're going. I'm looking forward to it. Will it main event? It's gonna be tough. Obviously, Roman's getting one night. That first night's up for grabs for sure, especially if Seth is out. I thought Seth and Punk would be the easy one there. If Seth is out, Punk and Drew makes sense. Punk, Cody, Drew makes some sense. It's going to be a little tough to not give it to Becky and Rhea, though, just based on the totality of their work.
Yeah.
So
on the totality of their work and the promo last night, or on Monday, heavily implied that because they literally talked about the main event of WrestleMania and their success in that, and but should they main event? I don't know. I mean, only because I feel like a lot of people are going to want to see CM Punk main event, especially because he came back to the company, and that was a big one of his big gripes when he left was I never got to main event WrestleMania. That's the one thing he never got. So you'd think that he would come back and he'd be a shoo-in for, especially with it being 2 nights now with the extra opportunity. So I kind of feel like CM Punk's going to main event night 1. But if he doesn't, it should be. I mean, I shouldn't even say that. It should be Becky and Rhea, based on the merit anyways, like you're saying. But I have it stuck in my head that Punk's going to main event night 1, no matter who it's against.
And that's very possible. Yeah, I think if it's Seth, that's the way to go. If it's Drew, probably still the way to go. But then Becky and Rhea have a much better argument for things. If Cody involved, it's even more likely that gets the main event. I love how the main event of WrestleMania has become something like part of the story, essentially, because there is 2 nights and it does open up the possibilities of that. Where if this was still 1 night, everybody would say main event WrestleMania, but everyone's just no, it's Roman's fucking main event this thing. What are we doing here? Why are any of these idiots talking about main eventing WrestleMania? Roman's getting that spot. You guys aren't getting this at all.
Exactly.
Glassdoor Gamer did leave a super chat, said Bucks knocked the troll job out of the park. They did a great job with it. We're going to move on to our other spotlight.
Our product is what it is. We're going straight up the middle.
Jack Perry is back. The Scapegoat, Jack Perry, showed up at New Japan Battle in the Valley, attacked Shota Umino and took him out, and then ripped up his AEW contract and had the armband that said Scapegoat, and then said something about, why don't you answer your call, quit tweeting, seemingly a shot at old Tony Khan there. So what'd you make of this, Jensen? It kind of came out of nowhere, and then because it was such a busy Saturday night between New Japan, TNA, and AEW, it almost got lost in the shuffle.
Yes. I mean, I love Jack Perry. He's one of my favorites. I'm very interested to see where this goes, and you might. I'm sure you know more than I do, because I have not paid much attention to this stuff, and it's your job with the news writing and whatnot. I'm sure. What's? Can you fill me in on do you know what level this is legitimate as far as what his standing in AEW is? Do you know anything about that?
Oh, my guess is it's all storyline. I mean, honestly, nobody said a whole lot about it. They didn't acknowledge it on AEW television or anything. They didn't. New Japan hasn't said Jack Perry's going to wrestle at this event. It's honestly it was under the radar, and then it stayed under the radar because nobody really said anything about it, which is a little odd. It feels like if a guy's going to show up on this program and you have a relationship with this company and rip up the contract, considering how online Tony and AEW are, you would think there'd be some type of comment about this. But even if it is a storyline thing, but they just aren't acknowledging any of it. So, but I assume it's all 100% storyline.
Yeah, that's my assumption as well. And that's funny mentioning the Tony Khan tweeting stuff. Yeah, there was what was I gonna say? There was something about Jack that I was gonna bring up, and I just lost it. But I like that he popped up in New Japan, and maybe I'll pop up other places, kind of here and there. But I think that it's also worth bringing up. This is what I was gonna say, is that I don't think it's a coincidence, especially with it probably being a storyline, or with it definitely being a storyline, but the way that it's being presented is that it seems like they waited for the devil reveal for some of this other stuff. Cause like Jack Perry, there was a lot of, clues and stuff that like he could be the devil. So like we didn't see Jack Perry or hear from Jack Perry at all until the devil reveal happened. There was somebody else recently, the Young Bucks, you know what I mean? Like they could have potentially been involved with the devil story. There was like a little speculation there that they could be involved. The Hangman was kind of loosely tied to that story and stuff. And the Young Bucks didn't return until after the devil was revealed, and I think that was kind of part of this too. And that leads me also to know that it's some sort of work, because I'd imagine Tony and Jack were sitting back going, all right, you're off TV because of this Punk stuff. Like I'd imagine that whatever suspension he served is probably long over. It's just a complete guess. I'd imagine it probably wasn't anything that was that long or that serious. And then, but they're like, we're going to hold you off TV. We're going to reboot you completely. And but we can't do anything until after the devil reveal, because we want people to think you might be the devil. So now we're at where we're at. And I like that. And I think the Scapegoat, that's obviously a clear nod at the backstage speculation and all that stuff, that he's the scapegoat. Like he got CM Punk fired. He is, he's the bad guy. He's the one who's getting in trouble and getting all this stuff. Like all this is his fault. The reason the AEW fan base is split is his fault and all this stuff. So he's the scapegoat. Yeah, blame Jack Perry for everything. Like I've said 1,000 times, if he comes back to AEW television and after all this, his theme music is Cry Me a River by Justin Timberlake, I'm going to pop bigger than maybe I've ever popped in my life for professional wrestling. So anyway, I'm a big Jack Perry fan. I know there's a lot of people that are on the fence about him still. There's a lot of people that don't like him for various reasons, whatever. Like I'm a fan of his. I think he's great in the ring, and he's an AEW pillar. I don't think that they're going to just let him, just let him go like that. I think this was done to create interest, and they have this is another huge advantage of AEW having the working relationships with other companies, that you have the option to do this. Like you don't have to show up on AEW right now on an inflated roster, and get lost in the mix there right away. You can show up on AEW or show up on New Japan, start creating buzz, maybe show up again, maybe show up somewhere else, show up on TNA or something, who knows? And then when you wind up back in AEW, it's a way bigger deal. So that's where I think this is going.
I liked it. I look forward to seeing. I think Jack Perry could benefit a lot from being in New Japan as well. I think he's more got the kind of tools to succeed there than someone like David Finlay, who's going to be the next kind of Gaijin star because everybody else has left. But I think Jack Perry could really succeed in New Japan. We'll see if it's a long-term thing or if he's back in AEW. I think it should be a long-term thing. I think earliest Double or Nothing, latest probably Forbidden Door, since obviously that's going to be the two companies working together, so it makes sense there. I do think AEW's got to acknowledge it at some point, even if it's just you know what, we did let Jack out of his contract, he decided to go to New Japan. Just acknowledge it in some way, because otherwise, you just kind of look, we know you're an online brand. We know you pay attention to this stuff. This happened on the show that your partners are running that featured some of your talent. Your talent was in the main event and the co-main event and the third from the top event. Kingston, Moxley, and Ospreay were all on this card. You have this relationship. You probably got to acknowledge it a little bit.
Unless Tony just maybe the next time Jack shows up on TV anywhere, Tony, this would probably be a bad idea, but Tony could tweet just the letters NDA with the little emoji guy that's I can't say anything. You know what I mean?
That's what, if you ask Tony about it, that would be his response. Like, that's a
Right.
great question. I can't talk about that. That would be it.
AEW is the safest place in the world to work.
Reels and Heels says only a select few knew Jack was showing up, and New Japan security almost nabbed them for jumping the rail. Yeah, I saw that report that security didn't even know, and so once they did it to keep everything, I apologize for saying it's probably to hide that it's a work. Like, I get that, but I still think you can add to the work if you actually like do just comment, even if it is a no comment type of thing, because not commenting just seems a little weird about it. Like, he was tweeting about the show, he's tweeting about the Moxley match of like, Moxley, yeah, kick his ass, and then he like doesn't have anything to say about Jack Perry. So I think most people understand that it's a work. I mean, maybe acknowledging it is the further proof, but I think the fact that it's happening is proof that it's a work. But yeah, I understand. Like, they're trying to do essentially the Pillman thing of like Pillman showing up, and then would WCW have acknowledged that or anything? And back in the day, if Eric Bischoff was online, I think Eric Bischoff probably would have thrown some type of like fit online, whether there was a work or not. Yeah. The other spotlights, Nic Nemeth. Speaking of debuts, Nic Nemeth made his debut at TNA Hard to Kill, took out Moose, hit him with the zigzag or the knick-knack, whatever he's going to call this thing nowadays. And then he has crossed the line. What'd you think of Nic Nemeth, the former Dolph Ziggler in TNA?
Did you just come up with that knick-knack thing? Or
no. I saw it going around online.
Okay,
no,
I haven't seen that
wish.
yet. That's good. I hadn't thought of that. Because I saw people online still calling it the zigzag, like whenever he hit it, because people didn't know what to call it. The knick-knack. If you want more thoughts on this, like more of a deep dive, like I was on the post show with Cresta Star and Joel Pearl right after Impact, or right after TNA's Hard to Kill. But yeah, I mean, good for him. Like, you know, he popped up in New Japan. You know, he's gonna be wrestling Cardona at GCW soon. And he was rocking the TNA t-shirt. So my feel about all this, and he's on the TNA website as well, I believe now too. I think I saw people saying, so like, is the way that I understand it, he's a TNA contracted wrestler, but because of like the Forbidden Door, and I'm sure similar to Cody, like when Cody left the WWE the first time, or the only time, but you know, this example there, people kind of forget, like, he did, like, he went to TNA, he went to New Japan, he went to Ring of Honor, like all before AEW was founded. Like, he had like handshake type like little contract deals with these other companies, but he was working everywhere. And that really looks like what Dolph Ziggler is doing, which is very smart for him. And I'd imagine this is literally what he's been waiting to do for like 10 years. Like, he's probably sitting there like, man, I should have done this so long ago. And he looked great in TNA, like just showing up. Like, he looked super healthy. He looked like him and Moose face to face. Like, you know, I think that Alex Shelley and Nemeth would be, you know, a better match than Moose, but like Moose looks like, you know, a big, you know, WWE style wrestler, like, you know, and Ziggler going up against him. I think it's gonna be a good match. And like, I like how invigorated Nick seemed. Like, he was in the crowd after the match, or after the like when the show ended, he went up in the crowd and tore his shirt off, and he was leading the TNA chant, and he was super hyped, and that crowd was super hyped. So I mean, it was a really good reveal at the end of the show for Nick, and I mean, I hope success for him. You know, I'm with the rest of that fan base that wanted to see him accomplish more in the WWE, because he's always been talented. So he's going to be able to prove it in TNA and New Japan and GCW. Like, I can't wait to see what he does.
I look forward to it. He definitely seems reinvigorated. He definitely seems like this is something he clearly wants to do, and clearly wants to get out there, and much like a Cardona, just go around and do everything he can to try to lift the scene, which is good, because he's been in one system for 20 years, and he got a little long in the tooth there. You know, every time Dolph came on, it was like, oh, okay, like, here's Dolph. We know he's good. He doesn't really get a lot of chance to showcase himself. He's been stuck at one position forever. Now it's up to him to prove that he is, bigger than this position. And so far he's off to a good start with things. Yes, people in the chat are saying Ash by Elegance, Dana Brooke is also crossing the line. So yes, we'll see what she has up her sleeve with everything. I think people are very dumb trying to make assumptions and comparing it to Toni Storm just because she showed up with a dress and looking elegant. But Dana was another person who always talked about she wanted more opportunities and stuff. We will see, if she's going to get these opportunities. We'll see how she does with them. I didn't know if you had anything to add with Ash by Elegance.
Oh no, I think that it's clear that she's targeting Dana, or she's targeting Jordan Grace, and they both have. People might not remember. Dana Brooke was scouted by the WWE through the Arnold Classic. Like she has like the history with like weightlifting and stuff, and Jordan Grace is like big in that world currently and stuff. So there's maybe some like cool, maybe some stuff in both of their backgrounds that they can kind of explore in the story and stuff with kind of like their training and their past and stuff.
All right, we'll move on to the indie spotlight.
I'm going to give a big motherfucking shout out.
Joey Janela against Microman in the greatest match of all time.
That's just the spotlight. Yeah, good. I mean, Joey Janela kicked Microman's head off. That was a great super kick. Microman went viral a few times this weekend. If you're not familiar with him, I'd recommend checking out like his work, like in the US, especially for like MLW. But yeah, I mean, he's out there suplexing people, and I mean, he's getting pops. He's very, very, very small, but he can work. He does a nice 619 also from the bottom rope. It's good stuff. So yeah, man,
drop kick Janela through a door.
Yeah. If you want to go through his spots, go. Yeah, just Microman versus Joey Janela. Yeah.
If you've not seen Microman, he used to be on MLW TV. I don't know what happened there, but he's not really on MLW anymore. Him working GCW is just hilarious to me. He wrestled the night before at the GCW show.
Yeah. And
he did the spot off the balcony where he dove on the 5 dudes. And of course, everybody has to fall over. And it's like, I understand the some people are going to be very mad of like, how are you not catching this Microman? It's 5 of you. What are we doing? This is the silly shit in wrestling that I absolutely love, that I absolutely pop for. And him diving onto 5 guys, including Josh Bishop, by the way, who alone could easily catch him.
Catch him with one hand.
Yes. They just all fell over. And Janela's the perfect guy to wrestle any of these people because Janela just doesn't care. Janela's going to bump his ass off every single time to put on like a great match and give the fans a show. So you pair Microman, who is just hilarious, and again, a good wrestler, with Janela, who is going to show ass and do what he needs to do. And you're going to get just a hilarious match. So go watch it. If you haven't, go watch both of the GCW shows, honestly. But if you only watch one thing, watch the Microman matches.
Well, or watch what we're going to talk about here in a second. But yeah, if you want to watch Microman, more he was kind of like the like an unofficial member of the second gear crew in MLW. Like he was in with like Mance and Vanders and those guys over there. So yeah, if you want more Microman, go check that out. But yeah, go ahead and lead into my spotlight, because I'd argue if you want to watch anything from GCW this past weekend, it's probably what I'm going to talk about. But shout out Microman and Joey. I love both those guys, but like what we're about to talk about here is pretty cool.
Microman and Joey, that's the only match.
All right, so my spotlight this week for the Indies, I got about 4 minutes before I have to clock in for the shoot job, is we had Mustafa Ali make his GCW debut against Gringo Loco, and I thought that the presentation for Ali was awesome. Like the theme music was great. The guys like the flags behind him. He had like this whole crew come out with him, and this was in Chicago. So Chicago, there's obviously heavy roots with both guys, both Gringo Loco and Mustafa Ali from Chicago. The match itself I thought was great. Mustafa looked like he hasn't missed a beat. He's going to be perfect back here on the indie scene, or like whatever he wants to do, he's going to fit in great. There was multiple times where like I thought Gringo Loco had him. This could have went either way. Both guys absolutely killed it. The finish was great too. Gringo Loco hit it was like a inverted Spanish fly off the top rope. And then when he went for the cover, Mustafa Ali wrapped him up in a Koji clutch and made him tap out. I think he made him tap. I can't remember if he made him tap or he passed out. I think he might have passed out. But he put him in the Koji clutch and submitted him. And even more importantly, after the match, I don't have the quotes in front of me, but Ali got on the microphone and basically said something along the lines of, without Gringo Loco, like I wouldn't have done. There would have been no me on 205 Live without Gringo Loco. There would have been no me on the Cruiserweight Classic without Gringo Loco. I would have never pinned a WWE champion without Gringo Loco. Mustafa Ali doesn't exist. Is basically what he said, and that was that was putting over Gringo Loco even more than if Gringo Loco would have just pinned him clean in the middle of the ring. That was huge, because that endorsement right there, we already knew Gringo Loco and what he was capable of. I've already been calling him the smoothest wrestler in the game for a while. I love Gringo Loco. He's also a super nice and humble guy. But there's a lot of the wrestling world that doesn't know him or didn't know him, or maybe knows a little bit from Ring of Honor or something. And for Ali to go public and say the stuff he said like that is just such a massive endorsement that everybody's got to take Gringo Loco seriously. And I think he's just on everyone's radar now because of it. And that was great to see. It's great to see Ali, give respect to a guy who really helped him when he needed the help, because Gringo Loco has been around for a long time too. He's just now finally kind of getting some of the spotlight himself. So I love seeing Ali helping someone who helped him and elevate both of them, kind of going forward. I thought that was beautiful. It was a beautiful post-match speech that Ali gave for Gringo Loco.
We talked a little bit about Ali last week as far as just him kind of making the rounds on Independence. Now he's going to be wrestling at New Japan against Takahashi as well, which I'm really looking forward to that match. But him and the Gringo Loco, him against Gringo Loco made sense, just being in Chicago and everything. That match always made sense. I did not even realize how much respect and history the two just kind of had with what Ali was saying of I wouldn't be here without this guy. I wasn't even privy to that. So it was a very cool moment. One, the match was great, as you would expect. But it was a cool moment post-match, Ali really putting him over like that. And it seems like he's doing this in every town he kind of goes to. He's putting over the guy that he works with to try to build them up, try to lift them up. And we've had Gringo Loco on this show. We've both known of Gringo Loco for a while. He's been on ROH TV, and we know how good he is. And hopefully this leads to more big things for him.
Yeah, absolutely. So shout out to Gringo Loco. Huge fan. And I'm hoping to see Ali do this for more of the Chicago guys. One that really stands out to me is Craig Mitchell, because I know that they have a history, and I've talked about it before, how Craig helped film and produce a lot of Ali's kind of early segments that they use in WWE with him out on the street, cleaning up the streets as a vigilante. A lot of that was Craig Mitchell filming that, and the WWE wound up liking it and then producing it themselves and stuff. And Craig's a great wrestler. He's doing great work in freelance wrestling right now. I would love to see Ali pop up in freelance for one of these Chicago-based shows and do the same thing for a guy like Craig Mitchell and stuff. It's just cool to see a guy like Ali with all the success that he's had and all the eyes that are on him right now. That he's using that platform to help elevate others that have helped him along the way too. That's what more can you ask of a guy? That's character of a good human being, in my opinion. So that was really cool.
Yeah, and he's gonna continue to keep making the rounds on the independent scene, and I look forward to it. So, Jensen, I know you got to run real quickly. Go ahead, plug everything, and set up this interview because this is a Stephen Jensen special.
Yes, so you can follow me on X at @FightTalk_. You can use code FightTalk at IndependentWrestling.tv and listen to the Weekender podcast over on Fightful Select. That's every Sunday, sometimes Mondays. It'll probably be pretty much Sundays going forward now that the Viking season is over. But this interview you're about to hear is from Michael. I believe you technically say his name Kanik, but everyone calls him Kanik or Kaniki. So Michael, we're gonna say Michael Kenck. We're just call him Kanik. He is a part of the you've seen him from the Major Wrestling Figure podcast. He's the owner of the Major Bendy figure line and the big rubber guys. We talk action figures. That's a big reason why I'm in this room right now doing the show. Everything behind me is signed. I've seen some people making some comments. Even this over here, that's signed by Austin, The Rock, and Triple H. That's a good one right there. This one right here, you can't really see. This is signed by Ernie Reyes Jr., Kino from the Ninja Turtles. I got some good stuff back here. Sting, signed by Sting, Raphael. So I'm gonna get some of my cool stuff out there right now because Kanik's about to blow me out of the water because he is a massive collector. He is he's very much in the game, and he was a super nice guy, really interesting past. Him and his family have a really interesting past, and I'm really inspired by what this guy's doing in his story and what they're doing with the major pod and everything. So enjoy this interview with Kanik. I'm about to go clock in for my shoot job.
Appreciate it as always, Jensen. Good luck with the job. Good luck with the promotion. Keep us updated on that.
I'll let you know when I know something. See y'all.
And we will get into it. Michael Kenck from Major Bendies. A lot of action figure talk. If you're into collecting, if you're into figures, you're going to love this interview. It was a great chat with Michael. Very fascinating background with everything. This man could have been like a genius scientist and instead decided to create men in their underwear. That's what happened. All right, everybody, let's get into it. Michael Kenck from Major Bendies in the Creator Spotlight.
Welcome back to the Creator Spotlight here on the Spotlight and Fightful. I am Stephen Jensen, joined as always by Jeremy Lambert. And our guest today, you know him from the Major Wrestling Figure Podcast. He is an owner of the Major Bendies and all the behind the scenes great stuff they got going on in that whole brand. We are joined by Michael Kenck. Kenck, thank you very much for joining us. How you doing?
Fantastic. Thank you guys so much for having me. Shaking with excitement.
Yeah, well, I am too, because people who didn't get to see the pre-show, the dark match before we started going live here. And well, this will actually technically we're recording now, but y'all will see it on Thursday. But we were just kind of fanboying out on some of our collections and stuff, and I made sure to get some of my stuff in the background because I knew that Kanik was going to come with the heat with everything in his background. Jeremy, very plain.
I feel I'm like, I got a Peter Forsberg figure here. That's about all I have like around me. So yes, I'm very out of my element. I was looking for my orange casket here, but I can't find it.
Autographed Hasbro wall.
Woo!
Everything that is autographed.
Ooh, that's so cool. I've got my autograph collection right now. I showed you my Funkos a second ago. Like behind me, I've got some signed WCW and some signed AEW. But I see Myers the autograph collection.
Yeah.
Cardona with autograph. You guys are nuts. But so speaking of, I wanted to jump right into it. From the way I understand it, you were just a fan. Like you were a fan of of action figure collecting in general, and that's how you got in with Cardona, Myers, and that whole team over there was like as a fan, and now you're like really important to what they're doing.
I wouldn't say important, but I'm part of what they're doing.
You're important to it, man. You gotta
don't sell yourself short.
Yeah, no, for real.
Well,
man.
I am short.
Great. You're doing great work, for real.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah. Yeah, I was actually a day one listener of the podcast. And I was working at a Fortune 500 marketing agency. It was boring. It was tedious for me. It was nothing like Mad Men. Even my boss didn't even drink, which was very disappointing. So I was just really unhappy. And I was listening to the podcast one day, and they just seemed so happy and genuine when they were talking about collectibles. And I was like, that's what I got to do. So I just typed in LinkedIn collectibles. One job popped up. I applied for it. Next day I had an interview, and then I got the job like a few weeks later. And it was a crazy experience because the guys always say figure fate, right?
Yeah.
And it was figure fate that I applied for this job, and they were looking for someone who could lead the WWE brand that they just acquired. So it was a company called Eagle Moss, and they made those small WWE statues with the magazine and everything. So I had the pop culture experience. I never worked in the toy business really. I was working at this marketing agency. I worked for another company before that that did office supplies, and like they made all these like weird tchotchkes for Chase Bank, and that's where I actually got the knowledge how to do all these things. But it was figure fate because they were looking for someone who had marketing experience and knew something about the WWE. So I just kind of fell into their lap, got everything. I got the job. And probably like 2 weeks later of getting the job, the guys were doing a promotion where they would call you for thanking you to for buying one of their shirts on Pro Wrestling Tees. And they called me and I let them know about the how they inspired me to get this job. And I think it was just Broski being cheap and trying to get free product. He started following me on Instagram. And that's kind of how it started. He then mentioned later on the podcast that he was looking to make foam fingers. And with my experience from my previous job, I knew how to do that. So I reached out to him and I said, hey, I can get this done for you. It'll just take about 2 weeks. Is that okay? And he was like, 2 weeks. Yeah, let's do it. And yeah, so the foam fingers went into being keychains to condoms. And then the pandemic hit and I was doing a lot more merch for them because they were on their own now when they got let go from the WWE. And I had the idea of doing wrestling buddies. And we called them Major Buddies. And I have actually one right here next to me. This is Smart Mark Sterling.
Awesome.
But so I had this idea to do wrestling buddies and do stuff that's outside of the normal merch, right? And Matt had zero faith in me. He said, if you can make it, and it looks good, I'll completely fund it. And that's what we did. I got him a prototype really quickly. He's like, holy shit, you did it. I think he then realized I drink a lot, so he probably thinks I'm an idiot most of the time. He realized I'm kind of smart, and I kind of know what I'm doing. And he was fully on board, and we made the buddies. It was first to start off with Matt and Brian, and they sold out in the day. And I shipped them all out. And after shipping them all out, I was like, that's really cool. People, we have something here. I think we can continue doing this, but I don't think wrestling buddies are the way to go because it's hard to collect wrestling buddies, right? You can't build a collection off it.
A lot of space.
A lot of real estate taken up. And you can't really get them signed. You can't really display it properly. And I had just bought a bunch of Bendums from Wrestling Universe in Queens, and I had them stacked up. And I was like, I think I could bring this back, and I think this is doable. I think this is has nostalgia for me. I think it has nostalgia for others, and that's how it kind of kicked off this voyage of Major Bendies.
I love it, man, and I love that the Major Bendies are a thing because I have the majority of the original like WWF line of them outside of I had some of the more expensive ones when I was younger and then like didn't have many more, and now like I see like Taz and Too Cool and Rikishi and stuff, and I'm like, I can't afford that now, but I used to have some of those, but I love that line. And the reason that I loved it so much is because I could find those at like Big Lots and stuff when I was younger. Like they weren't expensive. So it was like you could actually get like a few of your favorite guys, and they didn't scale well with like the rest of the figures that I had. You know, they were always much smaller, but it was cool that you could get them. And I actually collected a lot of them during the pandemic. I started like collecting a lot of them, and a lot of it was because of the Major Pod, because probably around 2018 or so, I want to say, I started seeing them popping up on like YouTube and stuff, and they were still in the WWE at the time doing like a WWE action figure hunting show for them on YouTube a little bit. And I was like, damn, is it cool to be a collector again? Because I need like, maybe I should get back into this. Cause like I had sold all my stuff from when I was younger, and I was like, and they made it cool again. Like you guys made collecting cool for adults, which is like, doesn't get enough credit probably. Like even just a handful of years ago, this was not considered cool for adults to do this. And now it is, at least in my opinion, it is now.
Right. Yeah, no, I always give them credit for that. They kind of made it cool again. there was like a period. I think everyone's gone through this as collectors, where you either hide that you're collecting, or you stop collecting because you don't want the backlash. Like the movie The 40-Year-Old Virgin gave us such bad rep that like you did not want to walk into the toy section and look at it. Like you did, but you kind of like,
I know
it was like almost like walking to the Porno section in Blockbuster.
Yes. And if you made eye contact with someone else, especially if they were also wearing like a wrestling shirt or something, it was like, are this guy my friend or is he like my off? Because like he wants the same figure I'm looking for.
Yeah.
Is he competitive? I know the feeling.
Yeah, but now it's cool. Like it's open. People show off their collections now. It's like the thing to do. So it's bright times. The nerds have took over.
Yes.
What were some of your favorite things to collect, like growing up? What got you into really collecting?
We were saying this or discussing this during the dark match. Power Rangers was my thing. I love Power Rangers. I remember going to Toys R Us with my brother and my mom, and it was like Jingle All the Way. Like there was a lottery system to get the Megazord or the Dragon Zord or the Command Center, or the Flute, and it was just like a thrill back then. And it still is now because I'm rebuying a lot of that stuff, and I want it in a certain condition. I want the certain year that it was produced and all that stuff. But yeah, Power Rangers is what really got me into it. And then, wrestling figures in general, because I can't think of when wrestling was not in my life, because my father watched it, my brothers watched it, my mom secretly watched it. She probably won't admit it. But yeah, it's just, so those were like the two big things for me.
Okay. You had mentioned a big Power Rangers purchase on our dark match as well recently, which I very much respect. I love Jason David Frank, rest in peace, the original Green Ranger, White Ranger. And I was actually very much in the market for what you purchased, but I was looking prior to him passing away, and I'd imagine a lot of his stuff has probably gotten even more expensive since then. So but what are some of your favorite Power Rangers things that you currently have right now in your collection?
Yeah, so I'll show this off. Actually, I have two tattoos that I could show off that talk about the subject.
This rules.
Off the hoodie first. One's still kind of fresh. I got it last week.
Oh wow,
awesome!
I'll show the first one. I can't really show that, but yeah. So it's the green Power Ranger, the Automorph,
the flip heads.
The flip heads. Yeah. This is probably one of my favorite action figures growing up. It's still one of my favorite action figures. I have a complete set loose. I have a complete set signed, mint on card. So I actually had a mutual friend with Jason David Frank, and at conventions I used to hang out with him. And I probably have a ton of stuff signed by him. I did a Power Rangers comic with him. It was with Boom Studios. It's an exclusive variant cover with the green Power Ranger on one side, the white Power Ranger on the other, and then it's Tommy Oliver in the middle. But it's Tommy Oliver street clothes, and if you'll notice, it's half of it is the White Ranger street clothes, and the other half is the Green Ranger street clothes. So it's him basically being both sides. And he signed a ton of the books for me for free. On the floor at New York Comic Con, just to help me out. And
awesome.
I actually was just about to put this up. This was a gift that he gave me a New York Comic Con ago. Can't figure out the camera.
Wow.
Oh wow.
So he had a bunch of these that Hot Topic had just dropped off at his booth, and he quickly signed one and gave it to me. But that's like the type of guy that he was. He would always just sign things and give it to me because he knew I was a fan. But back on the topic, Power Rangers #1, and then if you see that, Jeffrey the Giraffe.
Oh, Toys R Us. There you go. There you go.
I don't know. Yeah, there we go.
How many Toys R Us still exist right now? Anywhere?
they're focusing on collectibles. So they have Super 7 stuff. They have Funkos. They have Legos, like the higher end Lego sets. And hopefully Major Bendies one day.
That'd be so
That's
cool.
the dream.
Yes. Well, speaking of the Major Bendies, I don't want to somehow forget to ask this, because this was a big part of the reason why I wanted to have you on when we invited you on. You guys have the Jay and Silent Bob Clerks Bendies coming out, which I am a massive fan of the View Askew universe. Two of my favorite movies of all time are Clerks and Mallrats. I love, I love all of them, but those are the two, So, and I'll actually show you afterwards. I got a couple things I can show you that I can't show on here that I think you might think is pretty cool if you like those guys. But the I love that you're making these figures, because there isn't enough Jay and Silent Bob merch out there, I think, anymore. They used to have like the secret stash. They used to sell like more stuff, and I don't know. I with another one of my fandoms, Jay and Silent Bob, that I'm already thirsting for. Like when I go to retro like toy stores and stuff, if I see like Jay and Silent Bob stuff, I usually will buy it. I'm like, because I just don't see it that often. So the fact that you guys are merging these two things together, it was an absolute no-brainer pre-order for me. So I love that you guys are doing this.
Yeah, thanks. It was just like it was like another figure fate situation. It kind of just fell into our laps. I've been trying to get licenses outside of wrestling, and I'm still, I'm focusing on the music, movies, and TV shows. I came from a stand-up comedy background. My brother was a stand-up comic. Now he's a Gordon Ramsay season 1 Food Stars winner. So yeah, it's, I have connections from my past experiences working at Eagle Moss, and I've made a lot of friends. So it's just now expanding outside of the wrestling world. But yeah, the Kevin Smith thing, it's a dream come true, because I actually went to film school because of the movie Clerks.
Wow.
I didn't finish. I dropped out, and I changed my major to marketing. But it's kind of like a full circle moment now, where now I am making the figures of Clerks. And I get to work with Kevin Smith. So this is probably even cooler than if I finished film school.
So how did that come together? Like, you get in this business relationship with Kevin Smith?
It was, I responded to something on social media, and it piqued the interest of his manager, and he DM'd me through X or Twitter, whatever you want to call it, and it kind of started the conversation. He did a deep dive into my background, and found out that I'm an honest, legit guy. I have Mac and Brian with me, also legit, honest guys. And within 2 weeks, we had an agreement.
Wow,
so that quickly. Now, do you have to run this by, I guess, like Cardona and Myers, of like, hey, we're gonna produce this? Like, is that cool?
Yeah, so it's strange. I probably talk to Matt and Brian more than my own family now. We're always texting. So when it happened, I just shot them a message saying, hey, this is happening. I think this is a perfect fit for us. And they both agreed. So, most of the time, I would say 98% of the time, there's never a disagreement with what we want to do, because all three of us have the same collector mindset. But if there is an issue, we do a vote, and the winning vote wins. And that's what we go with. And if it doesn't get messed up, then the other one doesn't. Well, tries to hold their back, saying "I told you so."
Hey, I had another question about Kevin Smith.
Yeah.
With I don't know if you're familiar with this or not. This is like kind of another one of my worlds meshing over. But Kevin Smith is a big fan of the show Degrassi, and he was on Degrassi. I don't know if you're aware of this or not, but if you guys somehow could make Degrassi Bendems, I would buy all of them. Like I loved that show growing up, and there was no merchandise.
Whatever it takes, right?
I know I can make it through. Let's go. Dude, Kanik, we just become best friends. Come on, man. Let's go.
I have a Degrassi basketball jersey, and it's Drake's number.
That's amazing. That is so great, dude. That is so great. Well, I would absolutely love if you guys could somehow make something like that happen. But I love that you guys are thinking outside of the box, like, and you guys are such fans yourself that you guys, it isn't just about like a cash grab with you guys, which I really, really appreciate too. Like you guys are making products that like actual fans actually want to buy, that we think is cool, that we can take to signings and stuff. And like, I think that's a big part of it too. You guys aren't making like lame like cash grab products. These are like actually good products that actual collectors want to get, that real collectors are producing themselves. I just think it's just kind of a win-win for everybody as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, I think it's because once again we had the collector's mindset where everything we did with Bendies and Big Rubber Guys was done almost, if I would say 98% of it, once again, was done on purpose. That makes it the way it is. So like the resealable packaging, I wanted to make sure that you can take it out, play with it, and put it back in. If you want to get signed, there's that nice clear bubble that, I think you go to these wrestling shows now and you see Bendies everywhere getting signed, and it's insane, and people love it. And because of the resealable packaging, people are just carrying stacks of clear bubbles with them at shows, because you could just put the bubble on once you get the figure. So if a figure's coming out, you can just get the bubble signed in advance. It's really surreal. Like this is so fulfilling for me. And then there's times that we've done products like this, the new Microman that's shipping out next week, I think. We've lost money on this. Like,
I bet Cardona was like, "This needs to be perfect. I don't even care what the expense is."
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, look at the deco hits.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Yeah.
That's a great thing.
This is the most expensive bendy ever. There's the hat, the glasses, the tassels, the deco hits. We got Guy Dorian, the original Bendems artist, to do the trading card on the back. So it was what was supposed to come out. Everything about this was super expensive, but we were like, we don't care. Let's just do it. And we did the same with Big Rubber Guys. Series 1, we went through so many prototypes to make sure that it was exactly like the original source. And we didn't care. We wanted to, if we broke even, that was a win for us. Because then we knew that we were going to bring out a quality product that people can see and go, holy crap, I want to get Series 2. And then Series 2, we knocked it out with Demolition. I think Series 3 with Ric Flair. This is like insane. So like, I think we did the right thing of investing in ourselves and our product to make sure that we're producing a great quality product that people will continue supporting throughout the years.
Now, with the Big Rubber Guys, I wonder, and this is nothing to put down anyone else, of course. Jeremy Bidauer, good friend of the show. He's been on here as well.
Yeah.
We love Jeremy. I know you guys are big friends with him as well.
Yeah.
I actually discovered him because of you guys. But one of the criticisms of the AEW Jazzware line is the LJNs, the different materials, and some of them, like, they didn't really feel like the old LJNs. And is that part of what went into your all's decision making? Was like, there's been others who have kind of tried this. These need to be authentic. It doesn't matter if it costs more.
Yep. Yeah. So we did multiple things. We went through different variations of the thickness of the rubber, what the material was, the size of them, and then we had a thing with the packaging where it was like, do we want to do it in the original packaging with the blister, or do we want to keep that original? I mean, like what we do with Bendies with the resealable packaging, and we wanted to make it different than the packaging different from LJN's, because I feel like so many people have already mimicked that already that you get tired of it, and we want it so that it's almost our own. Like, we're paying homage to this product line, but it's our product line at the end of the day. So we didn't that's why it's different. We get a lot of people upset about that, but it's just, look at the product. But,
I was gonna say, I have one more question about that. I'm sure you have other questions. I could talk about this all day, obviously.
Yeah.
But was the line of thinking with the big rubber guys not only the nostalgia and, like, of course, the market and the but was it also a lot easier for y'all manufacturing wise, because you're essentially taking Bend-Ems and, like, upscaling them, right? It's like it's all rubber at that. Yeah. So, like, I'm sure that makes it a lot easier than going into, like, a completely different type of toy line.
Yeah. I was looking at other stuff to do, because, at the end of the day, we are a business, and to be competitive in the business, you have to keep on being innovative in the process. And I think that's what separates us from a lot of the other independent wrestling companies out there. We're always thinking forward. And Matt and Brian are in the business, so we kind of have a little heads up on things. But yeah, it was basically, all right, I can take this small factor and just explode it up, and it's big, and remove the wire that's inside it, because the Bend-Ems have the wire, the LJNs don't, right? So it's just doing basically the same thing that we're doing now, but just in a different form factor. The biggest issue that we had, after all the prototypes, was the actual shipping of the product to us, because I didn't calculate the weight of them, and neither did the factory, with the blister packs and everything. And I got a shipment, and it was just all, you can't sell it to customers because it was just, the packaging was destroyed.
Wow.
So what I did was, I have a science background. My brother's a scientist. We kind of just sat down and was like, what's the best way of training the factory on how to pack these things so they don't come destroyed? And I created this whole shipping method, and I should really probably get it patented. And I did a test run on them of 100, and it came, and they're all mint, and that's the new way that we ship these things out. We'll have the factory ship it to me. I still put it into a box and bubble wrap it normally, but yeah, it's been pretty much a smooth ride. I think that might have been like the biggest hiccup.
Okay, so is the brother with the science background the same brother that was on Gordon Ramsay's Top Chef?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Well, I have another brother too. But...
Well, I was going to say, Kanik, I can add to this, because from what I understand, I've done a little research. You guys have, like, auditioned for, like, Nickelodeon shows and stuff. Like,
yeah.
So can you tie all this together with, like, your brothers and this? You have this, like, Forrest Gump type background. It seems like that. Yeah. If you can explain that a little bit.
Yeah. Well, I always say that my brother is the smart Forrest Gump, because he's living on it all. But yeah, my brothers and I, we were child actors that turned into these science nerds that would travel for, like, competitive science like science fairs. We would do science research at colleges, and then present them. Like, I worked on nerve gases. My brother worked on nanorobots. I have an Intel award. Has a shit ton of awards. Went to Harvard at 16. Went to Cornell on a full ride. And then he dropped out, and No, he didn't drop out. He graduated.
Oh,
But he graduated, and instead of doing anything with his degree in cellular molecular biology and economics, he became a stand-up comedian. I was still in high school doing all the science stuff, but I was like, I know how to hack MySpace, and I hacked MySpace and created a program that would automatically add friends to someone's MySpace page based on the demographic, geographic, any interest. All that stuff was like public knowledge that no one knew that was actually worth money. And that's how Facebook makes money now. And I use that program to automatically add friends to his MySpace page to promote his comedy, and he quickly became one of the fastest growing MySpace comedians. So he was doing shows with Giannis Pappas, Bert Kreischer. He was opening up for Weird Al Yankovic and Snoop Dogg at a festival here at Giant Stadium, Bamboozle it was called. And my brother did all this. Then he went off to California. He followed some girl over there, became a ghostwriter in Hollywood, created this product called Smart Cups, and that's what he's been doing. He also worked at Tyson Ranch for a while with Mike Tyson. He was the head scientist there for a bit. But yeah, it's weird. We all have like a weird background of things.
That's wild. Did any of y'all? Because I know I believe it was. I believe it was you talking to Hornswoggle recently. I'd seen some clips, and you had mentioned the Nickelodeon stuff, like auditioning for Nickelodeon shows. Did these worlds ever come together? Were any of y'all ever on like figure it out? Like this seems like they'd be the perfect like I created this thing when I was a little kid. You know what I mean?
No, we did a lot of extra work, and that was about it. Nothing too big. Chris was on Where in Time is Carmen Sandiego. For it because he was asked a question. There was like a year frame, and you have to say if the person was not yet born or already dead, and it was like 1842 or something like that, and it was Mick Jagger, and he said already dead. So I always like setting him Rolling Stone songs once in a while. I'm like already dead or not yet born. But yeah, he did a lot of extra work for like movies and stuff. Got to work with Al Pacino, Brad Pitt. I was the not cute enough brother that got dropped by the agency because I didn't do what I was supposed to do.
What extra work did you do for Nickelodeon?
I really didn't get to do much extra work. I probably did like a few of the voiceovers, like Clue. It was really Chris and Joey. Joey's the other brother that we really don't talk about. Doesn't have that much of an interesting life. Actually, no, he was on a dating show for TLC and IGN called Geek Love. And they did 2 episodes for him because multiple girls were into him.
I actually now I'm remembering you the why you got dropped for the agency. I remember you talking to Hornswoggle about this. So it was you didn't want to work on your birthday, right? And,
I didn't want to work on my birthday,
but it might have been a Michael Jackson music video that you missed.
Yeah, and the agency got really upset and just dropped me. And I just had to watch my brothers go on all these auditions, which I really didn't mind because I didn't like it. I didn't like the camera being on me. I didn't like the attention. I just really liked the craft tables that they had out for the kids to be hopped up on sugar so they can be energetic for the camera. So I would go in, I would steal all the fruit roll-ups and fruit by the foots and the gushes. I was living life. I didn't have to do shit. I was basically getting paid to not do anything. I peaked at a young age.
Now, do you still currently eat all of those snacks that you just mentioned?
Oh, I still do.
Yeah,
and Matt hates the shit out of it because like he sees me
so unhealthy.
He's like, you own this company. You have to be fit. You have to look good. I'm like just eating garbage and drinking beer. I'm like, I don't give a fuck.
You're not the face out there. Like, you're doing promotion and stuff. Like, Cardona and Myers are the people out
Yeah.
there selling everything.
Yeah, I'm the one who's up late at night talking to China. I got a right to look like shit. I don't sleep.
I'm very fascinated how you and your brother were scientists going to Harvard, Cornell. It's like, yeah, now a stand-up comedian and in the world of wrestling,
I make figures of half-naked men, and
yeah.
he's dying to sell his company so he can go back to stand-up comedy.
And you said you walked away from a job at like a Fortune 500 company, like a good job.
Yeah.
You just weren't happy. I mean,
Yeah.
that's honestly, you're really out there living the American dream when you really think about it. Like, you had a good job, but like you weren't happy, and like you literally, like, the thing you're passionate about, you get to do every day. And like, I mean,
yeah,
that's super fortunate, man. And has your relationship, I mean, I know it's obviously strong with Myers and Cardona, but like, was it always like that really from day one? Like, once they realized that like you weren't full of BS, like,
yeah. I always tell Myers, I'm pretty sure you hated me when we first met. And he was like, I didn't hate you, I just didn't know who you were. But now, like, Brian and I are like, he probably talk on the phone. One of the few people I actually talk on the phone with, almost daily. And he'll call just to check up on me. And you know, Matt is Matt. But no, we have a very good relationship. We talk, and you know, I think we've gotten closer. I mean, we just spent a weekend together in an Airbnb. So yeah, it's insane. Like, I went to Madison Square Garden to watch Zack Ryder, right? And now I am talking to Zack Ryder daily and asking him questions of what fiber do you take because I need to poop. So it's like, it's insane.
Cardona is always praised, especially now with this independent run and everything, of just being like, when it comes to marketing and knowing how to sell yourself and put yourself out there, all the independent wrestlers just speak so highly of him with that. And then his character, of course, is he's an asshole who doesn't like anybody and is trying to piss everybody off. So it's always fun when we interview wrestlers. I try to get the wrestlers to bury Cardona, of like, just talk how bad he is. And they're always like, no, Cardona's so nice. He gives me this advice and that advice. No, come on, like, sell something, sell your match here with Cardona. But yes, he's very always praised, always well liked, of like, yeah, Cardona told me to do this, and now I'm making this much off of this because of this. And speaking of kind of working with independent wrestlers and legends and everything, like, who has been, I don't want to bury anybody of like difficult, but like, has there been anybody like you've pitched it to them and like they haven't quite been on board, or like, I don't know about this?
I don't think so. You know, we've sent people contracts and they just didn't sign it.
Who's that? Can you give us all the exclusives real quick of who isn't signing these? I bet it's people I really want figures from too. I guarantee it's like my favorite people, and they're like on their table right now.
Yeah, and you know what? It's just, they'll eventually sign it. We'll probably just have to, you know, to go up to them and talk to them and show them the figures. They may just be not sure, but for the most part, everyone wants to work with us, and I think it's really, we have a very nice symbiotic relationship with Matt, Brian, and myself, and TTD, and you know, we have Josh, who does our 3D designs, and Brian Beatty, who also does our 3D designs. But you know, we've created it's a symbiotic relationship. Matt and Brian are just so well known in the wrestling world because they've been doing it for almost 20 years, or if not 20 years. And they've built that trust with people. And then there's me, who I've been doing this for almost 3 years now of the figures, but I've also been doing merch for the guys for almost 5 years. And I've never fucked anyone over. I always deliver on time. If there's a mistake, I own up to it. And these guys talk, right? So it's gotten to the point where we don't have to chase anyone for contracts. People come to us. There's wrestlers who I've never met all of a sudden just text me and just say, hey, I heard you're the guy to talk to. Can you help me with so and so for my merch table? And I do it. I think Chavo Guerrero lives very close to my brother. I've known him for longer than Matt and Brian, for almost 10 years. He reconnected at WrestleCon this year, and he's bragging to the guys about me, saying, this guy's a genius. You don't know his family, everything. You got to trust him. Whatever he says, you got to do it. And like that holds weight, right? Because Chavo is a locker room leader.
Man, I can only imagine some of these conversations like now, because like at first it's like what are these, like who's gonna join up for this, like how successful is this gonna be? And now it's like, dude, we want in on this. Like we see this is working and we love these things. We want in on this. I love that. And to see some of the people that got these early on, like guys like Effie and like Nick Gage and these kind of guys, like it's just awesome for them to just have that extra merchandise for, especially because there's only a limited amount of people who are going to get like, like Jazzwares figures and Mattel figures and this kind of stuff. Like it's a great opportunity to just have cool merchandise with people you can trust. And that's just super cool. And I also saw Zombie had done the Nick Gage figures recently, and he got the GCW logo on one of those. And I was like, that's got to be the first time the GCW logo has been used on something, was on that. So it's cool seeing kind of like you guys, like Zombie and you and all, like it's like your whole, it feels like the whole like squad of you guys, like everyone's winning right now, it feels like.
Yeah. And there's a group of us who kind of just help each other out too with things. So like Zombie and I talk all the time. There's, I'm friendly with the guys at Epic. I'm friendly with the guys at Wrestling Collector. So like we kind of just all talk and we help each other out. It's like the stand-up comedy world where it's like Joe Rogan, right? He has his crew of people that he hangs around with, and they kind of all lift each other, and you see that crew elevate each other, right? They're not competing with each other, they're just helping each other. And I feel like that's the same with the wrestling world with the independent toys. There's a group of us that said, hey, you're a good person, you're a good person, you're a good person, let's all just try to help each other out. So if I have a contact that someone might need, I will gladly hand it over to them. And they'll do the same for me. But yeah, I mean, with the GCW stuff, I mean, we did the first, not GCW, but we did the first Conrad figure. We did the first Danhausen figure, first Nick Gage figure. We did the Ric Flair's last match figure, which the robe was designed based off the figure so that it could match. So the figure came first and then the robe.
Really? I did not know that. That's super interesting.
And the fun story about that was Conrad asked Matt who could make a figure for the last match. Now, the last match was 2.5 months or 3 months away. And, Matt didn't want to like promote his own company and, try to show off. He was asking other people for Conrad. And then he's like, well, he texts me on the side and he goes, do you think we can do it in time? Because no one could deliver on time. And I said, say yes and I'll figure it out. So I lied, and I got the figure done in from production to in hand in 2.5 months. And it was enough time for us to ship it, have Ric Flair sign them so that they could sell at the merch tables over there, and it was completely nuts. And then we had a similar situation with High Spots with the Nails figure, which is the first Nails figure since the Hasbro. And we did that, I think, in a month. So this goes back to, being an honest and trustworthy guy, where people can come to us with these deadlines and know that we'll deliver, and they're going to have a quality product and they're not going to have to worry about anything. And if there is any issues, we'll figure it out on how to resolve them.
Yeah.
Is there any figure, piece of merch, like anything that hasn't been done yet that you're just kind of like itching to do?
Yes.
Can you share anything?
No.
Fair. I was trying to get something. Trying to see if there was
Cardona might as well
out there.
kill him if he says anything.
They don't even want me to do. Well, it's funny because for a while I wanted to do the big rubber guys, and they just didn't want to do it because they said we got to focus on one line. We got to focus on one line. And I'm like, finally, I got tired, and I was like, look, guys, we've locked this down to a full system. We know what we're doing with this. It's time to bring something else in so we can expand. You either do it together with me or I'm doing it on my own, because someone else is going to do it before us, and I don't want to be the one copying them. I want to be the one where people are copying us. And Brian was on my side. Matt's like, all right, go see if it can be like the LJN. If you can do it, then let's do it. And I sent him a prototype, I think like a week later, and it wasn't exact, right? But it was really damn close. And he's like, okay, let's do this. Let's keep working on it. And that's how that built up. And I'll probably end up working on stuff on the side without him knowing.
I'm very interested to see what comes next from y'all's minds, because I'm a big fan of what you guys are doing up to this point for sure. Someone else I wanted to ask you about, this is a really random question. It's just because he's in y'all's world, and I'd imagine you've interacted, you probably even on camera, and I probably just missed it. What are your opinions of Super Gabby?
So I grew up, I don't know if you're familiar with the comedian Joey Diaz.
I am.
Okay, so me and Joey Diaz grew up in the same town in Union City, New Jersey. For me, Super Gabby is nothing special. Okay. I went to school with 200 other Super Gabby.
A lot of guys like Super Gabby. Okay, gotcha. Because he's a lot. I like his videos, but he's a lot. Like you can tell Cardona a lot of times, like, bro, chill out a little bit. I'm starting to get a little bit nervous out here.
Yeah. I've interacted with him a lot. I went to his storage unit. Spoke to him backstage at shows. The dude's just shot. That's the best way to explain it. He's a nice guy. He's just shot.
Gotcha. Yeah. And anyone else in like that world that you want to give like a shout out to on the show today? Like maybe some other people from like the YouTube channel, or maybe some other collectors of people that you see kind of out and about pretty often out there?
I mean, everyone that's supported Major Bendies. There's people who've helped us with photos. Matthew Goldberg, the guys at the AIC podcast. There's so many people. I don't know. But just anyone that's helped us in the past and be supportive with everything that we've done. I appreciate it. If you've bought a figure, if you've just even liked or engaged in one of our posts, told a friend, everything's appreciated.
I didn't know if you had any other questions there, Jensen, with the figures. I know we have 1,000.
Yeah, well, we'll have Kanik back on in the future for sure, because they're going to be pumping out the merchandise. So hopefully he will be cool taking the time to come on here in the future. Yeah. We could talk, because I mean, there's a whole other rabbit hole. We try to keep this within like 45 minutes to an hour. There's a whole other rabbit hole we can start. Oh, that's so sick. There's a whole other rabbit hole we can go down. That's not even wrestling related, on just Power Rangers and 90s stuff. I mean, I'd be here for hours.
I could talk Power Rangers, comics, Star Wars. I mean, you name it. I could do it. I'm just looking at my wall. I have a whole autographed section of Star Wars Black Series figures.
You're maniac.
So
Yes.
we ask everybody on the show the coolest thing in your room, and
Yeah.
you know, a lot of times it's wrestlers, so they have like a cool piece of merch or childhood memory. But you, Padawer, I'm blanking, and you're gonna have to help me, Jensen. Another big figure collector that we had on.
I mean, we've had
Kyle.
Oh, Kyle Peterson. Yeah.
Yes.
Kyle Peterson's
like,
great.
Yes, when these people come on and they have these big figure collections, like, what's the coolest thing in your room? And it's like, well, just look at this wall behind me. Like, it's all cool shit.
I mean, my room is really cool. Like, I have autographed Mike Tyson action figures. I have a graded copy of Wayne's World on VHS, because that movie probably shaped me to be the terrible person I am. Autographed Power Ranger stuff. But the cool thing that I have is, and it's probably not even worth that much. It's a autographed cell copy of the animated Spider-Man cartoon from the 90s, and it's signed by Stan Lee. And I like it so much because there's a story behind it. My father is an old school Turkish man who thinks I should have become a doctor, and I failed in life. Though now he appreciates that I make figures of half-naked men because he loves wrestling so much. But he found this in the garbage room in a building complex that we lived in when I was a kid, and he grabbed it and brought it into the apartment. And my brothers and I have OCD, and like we're like, ugh, something from the and I quickly got gloves, removed the frame, and took it out and got it reframed. But yeah, I think that's the coolest piece, just because when I look at it, I just think of my dad, who's, I'm talking about him as if he's dead, but he's not. He's very much alive.
That's cool though. I like that a lot. A lot of the time, the most like sentiment, some of my favorite stuff in my collection too is like isn't the most expensive stuff. It's like the memory of like whoever gave it to me or whatever.
Right.
Like, and I definitely appreciate that as well. Man, we could talk forever. Do you this is one last random question.
Yeah.
Do you collect cards also?
So I collect trading cards. I actually have a pile that I'm sending off. I have two separate piles. I have one pile for PSA and another pile for CGC. But I am nothing like Brian and his collection.
Gotcha. I was just curious because that's something that like I got really, really deep into the figures, over the last few years, and then started running out of real estate as all collectors start. That becomes a problem. And then I was like, okay, maybe I'll just switch to the cards a little bit here as like a little change up because they don't take up too much space. Yeah. And then that became a really dangerous rabbit hole because now I'm buying them by the blaster or by the hobby box and stuff. Right. So now I've actually got a whole now the cards are taking up a whole bunch of space because I'm running out of like drawer room and binders and all this stuff. So it's just because but now I'm in the same kind of boat too where I've started to get my cards graded and stuff recently too. So it's become a whole other fun. It's all expensive. It's all a very expensive hobby, but cool. It's good to know you're in that card world too. Because I've been dabbling more in that myself. So.
I actually I have two cards that I'm sending off to PSA to get graded. It is an autographed rookie card of Hacksaw Jim Duggan and the first Hacksaw Jim Duggan Major Bendy card signed. And I'm gonna get a cool display and display them together. Hopefully they come back in a good grade. But yeah,
very cool.
I'm like, I might have an ego problem, but I've started to like change how I collect and buy things where it can feature Major Bendies.
I don't blame you at all for that. I'd be doing the same thing. Are you kidding me? Have you gotten anything graded of your own line so far, or is that the first that you're going to be doing?
That's going to be the first, but I'm sending a few Major Bendies cards to get graded. One being the Kanik trading card. And I might just start walking around like Logan Paul with like the Charizard. And just, I'll get a nice chain.
I love
and
that.
that'll be my outfit when I go to wrestling conventions.
Man, you've got to have you've got to have PSA 10 cards, right? I mean, like if you don't, who would? I mean, they're right. I mean, you're the source.
Yeah, I have a few, but nothing crazy.
Well, I'm talking about like your current, like your bendies, like anything that you get graded, like like no one's gonna have a better chance of getting PSA 10 graded merchandise than your own merchandise that you send out. So,
well, you would think so, but
yeah.
I was in the graded comic business for such a long time. I used to do it as a side gig to pay off my college loans and buy this house. But I used to go all the time to Midtown Comics early in the mornings on Wednesdays, and I would take from the racks all the mint copies of books that I know would go for money, get them graded. And there's books that you would think that are going to come back as 9.8s, and they would just come back as like a 9, and you're just sitting there confused. And then there's times where you think you're going to get like a 9, and it comes back as a 9.8, and like it's gambling. But
it is. And I've noticed that depending on when you do it, like I know there was a big Pokemon boom like a few years ago, and then like all of a sudden it became I've dabbled in kind of paying a little attention to that world a little bit. Like it seems that once like the big boom happened, that it became a lot harder for PSA. Like they stopped like kind of handing out like the 10s. It seemed like everyone started getting 9s, maybe because of how many that they were seeing all of a sudden. And they're like, oh, actually, so some of the ones that actually weren't, they are graded 10s, but now they'd probably be graded a 9 if you sent it right now. So you even have to consider that like that'll even fluctuate over time, the way that they grade the cards. So
yeah, I'm not sure what the system is on that, but I think now what they do is they have a computer grading them so that they can grade faster.
Gotcha. That makes sense, I guess, at the end of the day, if they can like take the human error out of it, I guess. But
yeah, that's
such a massive, I mean, for people who are listening to this that don't know, I mean, the difference between a 10 and a 9 is like that's everything. I mean, so anyway, Kanik, I mean, we'll wrap this up. I could literally talk to you forever about this kind of stuff. We really appreciate
whatever you want.
But I will stay in touch, and we will do this again, especially as you guys continue to pump out more merchandise. We can have you on and talk some more action figures collecting and promote your stuff. And we're big fans here of what Cardona and Myers and Smart Mark and everyone on that team is doing. So we really appreciate you coming on here, man.
Yeah, I mean, let me just plug this real quick. We got Clicks for sale right now.
Yeah.
Yes.
We got the Clicks Bendies on sale right now at majorbendies.com. But we also have Mark Mero, Butterbean, which I think it's Butterbean's first figure. And a little rookie called Nic Nemeth is up as well. And then that's available for 3 weeks. So I don't know the exact date. It's like February 5th, I think, is the last day to order. And once that time period is closed off, that's it. You can't order these again. You may be able to find them at another retail partner, but if you want to guarantee that you have these in hand, I would order now. And then in February, we're going to have Hacksaw Jim Duggan, Big Rubber Guy, and Magnum TA. So those are 2 Big Rubber Guys. I would place your order right away, because if you're looking at what they're going for right now on eBay of past series, it's going for 2 to 4 times the price that we sold at retail. So get your orders in.
Yes, we can put the link to the Jay and Silent Bob pre-order in the description of this video too. So people who listen to this, if you guys want to go pre-order those Jay and Silent Bob figures, and we'll have other links down there below, so y'all can follow Kanik and everything they got going on. Also very random, but that's really cool. You guys are doing a Butterbean. I don't know if you're familiar with independent wrestler Cole Radrick, but he told us a story about he wants He wants to
Butterbean to punch him.
He wants Butterbean to give him the Johnny Knoxville. He wants to get paid to take so maybe we ought to get Cole Radrick a Butterbean. Maybe we'll give him one of those as a gift. So
I shook Butterbean's hand at WrestleCon, and all I could think was, "Fuck! Could you imagine getting punched by this guy?" And I was like,
Cole's a crazy person.
Yeah, he's insane.
Yeah,
I was thinking, I'm like, "Fuck! Can you imagine getting punched by him right now?" I'm like, what would it be like in his prime?
Right.
Like, I would be dead.
Yeah, for real. That would just be it. That'd just be it.
But he's such a nice guy and cool guy. So I'm happy that we were able to do this figure, and it's insane. We got the Clerks Bendies, Butterbean Bendy, and then Matt being called out on the Emmys. So it's like,
yeah,
Major Bendy's going Hollywood. That's it.
Awesome.
Matt's
we got the shout out basically for best body basically at the end. So
yeah, Matt's got the match against Paul Walterhauser coming up.
Yeah,
like a month from now, no less than, maybe even. It is, by the way, February 5th is the pre-order window for the Marrow, Nic Nemeth and Butterbean. So everybody can pre-order those. All the links are below, everybody. When you watch this, links are below to follow Michael if you want to follow him, to check out everything from Major Bendies. And yeah, we appreciate it. Thank you again. We'll have to do this again. I know Jensen is the big collector. I used to collect when I was younger, and then I don't have the funds. Too many kids, 12 kids. I gotta spend on them, not my own figure stuff. But I appreciate it.
It's a sickness, but like I could be addicted to worse stuff than action figures.
Right.
You know what I mean, so
the nostalgia of it, like that's what I'm a big fan of. Like when you're talking about like the big rubber guys, those are like my favorite figures from WCW, like the big rubber figures. Like I love these more than I love the Bone Cruncher stuff, but like I like the big rubber figures. So like I love the nostalgia of it. I really just like what Matt and Brian do in general. The way they have taken collecting and made it so cool in the wrestling world. Like I really appreciate everything they've done with that. So thank you so much, Michael. We really appreciate it. Again,
thank you
guys. The links are below. Thank you again, Michael, for your time. And guys, we'll be right back here on the. We are back. Big thank you to Michael Kenck for hanging out with us for an hour, talking about Major Bendies and everything going on in the world of wrestling figures and collecting. Thank you guys for hanging out with us for the past 2.5 hours. Being active in the chat, leaving some super chats, leaving a thumbs up on the video, supporting the show. Really appreciate it. I'm going to get out of here. I'm going to try to rest and sleep and hopefully have enough energy for In the Weeds tomorrow. And yes, hope everyone has a great day. TNA Wrestling is back tonight. Everyone can enjoy that. It's not a clip show. It's actual live wrestling, or taped, but live, new matches. TNA is back tonight. ROH is tonight. Tomorrow SmackDown. It's actually one of the slower weekends as far as like no major events. I don't think I'm missing anything. So it's a good opportunity to rest and reset, because the Rumble is next week. So be a good opportunity to rest. I look forward to doing that. Hope everyone gets some rest. Hope everyone has a great day. Guys, thank you again for all the support. We appreciate it. Go to Fightful.com, get all the news, sign up to Fightful Select, get all the news before anybody else. Maybe one day Sean will have an update on Sid. Head over to Fightful Overbooked, subscribe over there. That's the sister channel where we do new shows just about every single day. We appreciate everybody. We'll catch y'all next week right back here on the